Hello everybody. Let's exit to port. It is at the time of recording, the 25th of May, 12:09, so just past noon. In northern Norway we have a slightly windy day and a bit grey weather, about 8 degrees. But spring has sprung something fierce, and everything is green and everything is growing and the grass is exploding. Meanwhile, on the continent, my good friend and co-host Mr. Grumbles the Dwarf is experiencing what should we call it? Summer. Yeah, it's summer already, which is kind of too soon, I'd say.
Yes, definitely. Hello.
Hello.
I got the latest weather report in.
Mm-hmm.
Damn hot. But now, sport.
Thank you, Ollie.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the first thing that came to my mind. What is that segment? Oh, it's he always says that it's raining sideways or something.
Yeah, I can't. I'd have to watch them again, but I know I can picture it. I just can't. Exact words fail me, but yeah, it's that's exactly what it feels like today. It's like, how would you describe it? It's just too hot. Move on.
It's hot. Oh, okay. Welcome to the podcast, everybody. Exit port. We're not gonna change names, but I have been wanting to make it called be called No Rolls Barred. As we discussed on was this during the dinner party stream one day a couple of weeks ago now?
Possibly. We've been throwing different ideas around. Yeah.
It was a great name, and I really love it as part of a roleplay / D&D podcast thing. No rolls barred, because you have roll, you have bar, the bar as in the class. There's no rolls bar, like everything. It just fits so well together. Such a good amalgamation of things. Speaking of a good amalgamation of things, I want to say thank you to our patrons for keeping this up and pledging $2 a month or equivalent to this pod. And we're getting more and more people in, and the latest patron to have joined our ranks is Hailed Paladin. Hail to you, Hailed Paladin. Welcome in, and thank you so much for choosing to be part of our little what do we call them? Port enjoyers?
I don't think we have a noun for the collective yet.
Should we?
Not sure. Yeah, we'll come up with something.
We'll think of something. We'll workshop something.
Yeah. We definitely won't let our Patreons have any say in it, though.
No, that would be silly. No, but thank you so much for choosing to do that, to all of you who do. I'm sorry I dropped the ball a bit on reaching out to some of you and asking for topics or such. The day of recording just kind of sprang on me, and then suddenly I was like, oh crap, oh shoot, oh no, and then I poked Grumbles like, hey, do you think we can do this next week? And Grumbles like, yeah, it'll be fine. And then I was like, but I failed, and you feeling horrible about things, but yeah. We're actually recording a day earlier than we first planned, because I remembered, hey, we have 2 days off, so that left more room for things. So there's that. But this is a reminder to all patrons and anyone who's considering becoming a patron that we will include all of your comments, thoughts, questions, if you have any. Like, so if you comment on the YouTube video or on Spotify or in Patreon, underneath the episodes, or even send us a DM, that's perfectly fine. You can do that too. We will include it. If you want us to, that is. Like, if you say, oh, I had an idea for the podcast, but I don't want you to include it, then that's also perfectly fine. Like, then we'll just discuss it between us in the editorial meeting.
Hey.
I was afraid you were going to miss that cue.
Like a horse, I never miss a good A.
Nay, we're not doing that.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Didn't I have a whip button here somewhere? I think. There we go. Yeah, found it. Yeah, found it.
You might have whipped it till it was broken, but no.
No. It's that, and it's the know your role, the theme intro.
Honestly, the main thing I'm surprised about is just that you're on the right profile.
Me too. Like, I don't know what to say. I just I feel like I'm on the ball, and here we are. So ready to roll, ready to rock.
Should have public holiday recordings more often.
Would be fabulous. Can we petition the Norwegian government to add more of them during just at least once a month? You know.
National Podcast Weekly Monday.
Oh, yes. There we go. Now we're talking. But speaking of rolling, Roadcraft.
Yep.
And the dang titles. I thought I fixed this. Come on, game. OBS.
Yeah.
Flip. Okay. Anyway, Roadcraft. We recently finished that. We've gone through all of the main maps, like the ones that came out with the base game. We've gone through all of the maps from the first DLC and all of the maps from the second DLC. And I have to say, as far as games go, Roadcraft is very high up there on games that I will fully recommend to anyone, regardless of if they're playing together with friends or solo. And it's simply because of the nature of things. Like, there's no time rush. There's no forced way of doing things, for the most part. And it's just such a chill game. I will say though, and we talked about this during the streams, the latest DLC maps, they felt kind of out of place.
Yeah.
I understand where they're coming from and what the thought was, but they felt slightly out of place in regards to how they played. Yeah.
It was less Roadcraft and more Railroadcraft.
Yeah. And that it felt a bit weird. Because the idea of going into an area where you have these the concrete plant, the steel beam plant, or whatever, to help you further do other missions, and first building those up with how we approach things, that has been so cool, especially on the latest map we finished. Like, we went in, we built up these places, we built roads there so that we could get the first shipments in, and then we could start recycling and doing our thing. And that felt cool because it unlocked bridges and other functions for us, right? But there was something about the latest DLC maps that just it kind of took it to an extreme. And I think I most noticed it when what was it, the desert map that we did, where we fully discovered an area. Like it was scanned by a flippin' radar.
Mm-hmm.
But the big factory that was up there was not triggered or set up because we hadn't driven up to it.
Yeah.
And I was like, I remember being annoyed at it because it just, like, why? Why? What? Hello? Can we? Because there was nothing telling me that in this region there is a concrete plant for you to work with.
Mm-hmm.
If the game had told me you need to find it and go up to it and activate it, then I would have done that, because it said on the map that this is a concrete factory, right? But there was no indication.
Yeah.
And I assumed, which is on me, I'll admit that. I assumed that once it was scanned, it would kind of go, oh, here it is. Now you just need to drive up to it.
Yeah.
And
it was quite a small area as well that we hadn't uncovered. And also I would add that that's all of us were in the same boat. Essentially, it took not really a hint, but basically information from one of our mods who'd played it before to say, oh no, you're all thinking the right thing, you just haven't been to the exact pixel.
Right, yeah, because that was the thing. Like it was basically you need to go to this exact spot, and there was nowhere telling us that, and I felt kind of betrayed by that. Mm-hmm. But that said, we had still done I think about 85% of the map at that point.
Mm-hmm.
So you know, it just felt weird. It just felt weird compared to all the other maps we've done.
Yeah. I mean, there was still a lot of like more positives to it than negative, but it wasn't it didn't feel like it was in the same spirit or approach. I mean, it wasn't the same approach, and the approach difference felt like too significant of a gap to how we'd played the rest of the game and the first DLC maps. And I don't know. I you know, they obviously have their reasons. And I hope that they take on board the sort of feedback and look at it and revert back to how, you know, just the approach that they took, or maybe there's some kind of hybrid in between. Because there was some sequencing, and a lot of it is, you know, this area, and then you can unlock the next base in this area. But it was just too much. It was too rigid. In the two maps that came with the latest DLC, it was too rigid.
I felt it became too much like SnowRunner.
Mm-hmm.
Because SnowRunner is all about the exploring and going out and actively getting up to the very spot you need to, and just tagging something and getting stuck along the way. And then you get access to the resources. I don't feel like Roadcraft should be that. I know there's a lot of people that really want a good hybrid of the two, but it just didn't feel right in how we'd played everything else up until that point.
Yeah.
And there are certain parts of it that are fabulous, you know, going out exploring and then going, oh shoot, I found these materials that we really need. Sure. Yeah. It's great, but like it needs to fit in. So let's say we had a map with where something is flooded, you know, and in order to get access to the rest of something, well, we need to drain a big bog or a swamp area or a flooded area, a dammed up area, whatever. And that means you need to go out and find a rumored thing that ran away or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Or someone was delivering something at the time of the crisis, but they got stuck, and then you need to go find this pump and then deliver it.
Mm-hmm.
Actively find it first, then deliver it, and then you can start the kind of the road construction to fix up the rest of the region.
Mm-hmm.
With all the other missions of bringing stuff to towns and doing the convoys and such that we were used to.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like the latest DLC, it did that in such a way that everything evolved around that. Like, not just finding parts, but also finding the materials to build the buildings.
Yeah.
And to some degree that's fine, but it was everything. And then there was almost nothing else. I felt like I was missing something else in that, and it's weird. So, but then we jumped back. We jumped back and we did Contamination, which was the last map in the previous DLC, and that felt great.
Mm-hmm.
Except for certain bullshit with destructibles, but but no, that map felt genuinely great with how they built things and how big it was and how much we needed and could do with road crafting, with removal of forest and such. The only thing that they need to work on there is sequencing. Because there were a couple of moments where we're like, why am I allowed to do this, and then later I'm being prompted to do the prep work for this thing that I'm already doing?
Yeah.
Like, they have a genuine gem of a game here, and I absolutely love it. And I feel like we're nitpicking,
Yeah.
Because
again, from a point of view, if we want it to be like the very best it can be.
Exactly. Like, this is not to be seen as criticism or, oh my god, broken game. No. Fabulous game. Amazing game. But there are things that would make it flow just that tiny bit better and make it feel even more welcoming.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, no, I think Contamination is maybe the best map we've had so far.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
I think so too. I got so much enjoyment out of so many of them. I think that map, for its sheer scale, felt like bigger and more all-encompassing. And just the challenges being sort of all across the place. We did, as you said, we had that little one bug with that box spawning inside of a building, but I think that was just real unlucky because somebody happened to be there with the box when we did a restart of the session, and all this are kind of things that it is a bug for sure, but pretty unlucky happenstance that we that put it all together. But I think the game itself has been phenomenal. We've talked glowingly about it before, and the fact that it keeps coming back. I mean, I've done 256 hours in it.
Yeah, exactly.
Shows, and yeah, there were some things that were a little frustrating with the multiplayer stuff, with it being hosted sessions and that. So maybe there'll be like server options and things we can look at in the future. But again, I hope that they go back to the previous approach with the maps and everything, because it just fit the game so well. You have these big overarching objectives, you have the side quests, go. It doesn't need to be something that it isn't. And the fact that they've added in so many options like gearboxes and fuel management and stuff like that as options if you want to, I feel like that should be enough appeasement of the people looking for more SnowRunner style play. You can feel free to disagree if you love SnowRunner and that and you want it to be more like that, that's fine. And we'll see. There was supposed to be an update dropping on the 19th of May. However, that was already delayed from May, and they haven't dropped that update yet. as of recording. So we'll see what's going on there. They also haven't made any statement about it either, which is maybe more concerning. Not sure that they're the best communicators. They're not terrible, but it tends to be very like, oh, we just did this. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, you could have told us like 2 days ago that you were about to do this or whatever. So then again, they've also set themselves up with hey, we're dropping this on the 19th, and then they didn't. So
Yeah.
I think at that point, the company needs to do all companies need to do a better job of saying, hey, tell you what, sorry about this. We're as frustrated as you are, but we couldn't get this done on time. So we will get back to you shortly with the new ETA or whatever. So, but yeah, as a game, it's been phenomenal. There's not that many games that I put that many hours in that don't have a role play element to them. It's usually what keeps drawing me back into games longer term. So yeah, kudos to them. And I do look forward to the next update. Hopefully some more maps, or indeed just, I've already started another playthrough. So we'll see when I can find time to get back to that. But it'll probably be, a good half a year or something.
I full-heartedly agree to all of this. Like it's weird because as a game, you pretty much do the same thing the entire way, but I still feel like we have variation.
Mm-hmm.
And much like the next game up on our topic list, I'm just gonna bring it up on screen already. Much like Farming Simulator 25, we have it. Like, we play it in such a way that we can do our own thing, but it all adds to kind of for the greater good, for lack of a better saying. And we played Farming Simulator yesterday, and it has kind of that same idea. You go out, you do simple tasks to work towards a greater goal. And we don't need to do things together, but we can if we want to. We can cooperate on things when we need help, but it makes sense for us to kind of sit together and work on things, and it just works so well, and that is something that Roadcraft also does really well. But for many reasons, I want more people in, and I this is why we're now playing and talking about Farming Simulator 25. Because the ability to have more people in to work together towards that big goal of having that fish farm and whatever, it just feels, it feels like a big thing to work towards, and I think that's great. So Farm Sim 25 is probably going to be one of our Sunday go-to games for a bit now. While we work our way up on different goals. And then the cool thing about Farm Sim is just how much modded content there is out there. So if we wanted to, we could have absolutely enormous maps and host them on a server and have a community server out of it. Yep. I did an event in Farm Sim 22 with a community server where I gave out community contracts, and and that led to fun things for us to do together as a community, but also for things to happen on stream, and I just kind of imagine if we're able to get 2-3 communities together to work on a giant server, because we could have, and this idea just struck me, we could have several different farms on that same map where you have the creators as one farm, and then you have different community members kind of banding together on others and working towards different goals. And I think that could be genuinely fabulous. And to speak a bit more to your heart, I know there are roleplay servers out there for Farming Simulator. So yeah, I think that could be cool to look into and kind of consider.
Mm-hmm.
What are you looking forward to in Farm Sim?
Rail tracks I can get off. No, I'm looking for, firstly, more of what we've experienced so far, which is just a genuinely solid platform within which we can, have fun together, engage with our communities. It's got a very high sort of interaction and enjoyment level for both the players and the viewers, which is great. And just the ability, which we you've touched upon it, but we haven't really gone down that route yet. But the not necessarily not really for this playthrough, but for a future one with a bit more planning, something where we can explore, as you said, the larger multiplayer experience, and maybe just turn it into more of a living world where stuff's changing and happening around, and when you come back to it in a couple of days or whatever, and it's like, oh look, the community team 1 has built this, they've gone into rice farming or whatever, and how their landscape has changed around that. And we'd have to set certain parameters around, you can't have more than like 5 plots, or whatever the details would be, so that people don't come in and just go, well, I've been playing this since the last 15 years and I know all the things and I've got all the stuff done in a week and game over. So we'd have to set certain parameters and expectations around that. But yeah, I think what I'm looking forward to, what I envisage, is the potential to do a bit more storytelling in it without necessarily going fully RP route, but just here's the story and the short story and history of this farm kind of thing, or this farming community, or however we do it. So yeah, I think that it's got all of the necessary puzzle pieces are there, and it's a case of how to plug them together and make something that's fun and makes sense as a little story. Yeah.
So what I did with my server was I set up so-called community contracts, where someone would say, okay, I can deliver this to the admin farm, because I had an admin farm where I had all the money and such. And then when they had delivered everything, well, then I paid them. I paid them so that they could then buy a bigger tractor, or I gave them access to better gear, or I simply said, okay, now we're allowed to use these things on the server, or that could allow them to be able to unlock a parcel of land or something. That's the sort of stuff we could do with it, and that way they get to kind of create their own story, and we could mix in some light role play of, oh, just what you planning to do over here, Bob? Just be these old curmudgeons walking around and judging everybody else for what they're about to do to the land. Well, that's not how I would grow potatoes, but you do you, boo. That kind of thing. I genuinely think that could be a good way of doing things, but like you said, it's the ability to create a story together without necessarily being railroaded together for something. I think that's the beauty of a game like Farming Sim or Roadcraft or such. Like you're able to exist together in a good way. I absolutely love that. Absolutely love that. But yeah, no, I'm very down for the idea of doing more with it. I am, and we should probably look into that. One thing that I always kind of butt up against when I mention games like Farm Sim or such to others is that, oh, how's that any fun? And I'm like, I don't know how to explain it to you, but it is, and there's a lot of variation. But you're just a farmer, or you're just a whatever. And I'm like, no, no. There's more than that. But as a as a big contrast to those games where you have such freedom, I want to bring up two other games that I've played recently, together with my good friend Mr. Cthulhu. One is Firefighting Simulator, The Squad, and the other is Ship Graveyard Simulator 2.
Mm-hmm.
And in a lot of instances, people will play sim games and be like, "Oh my god, this is a hidden gem! Like how is this so amazing? Like grocery store simulator, fast food simulator, or whatever." And they have their own moments of absolute derp and craziness.
Mm-hmm.
However, there's something about when you create a game like Firefighter Simulator, where you would expect there to be a lot of action and derping and so on. When you boil it all down, the only thing you're doing is you're either driving there and then hooking up hoses and pointing it at the flame.
Mm-hmm.
There is very little room for derpage. Like, there are some moments with some AI NPCs and such, but it's not... It doesn't lend itself well for... And mind you, I'm looking at this kind of through the eyes of a creator and a content, like a streamer, but
mm-hmm.
it doesn't really lend itself well to that. And Ship Graveyard Simulator 2 was, whereas slightly better, still very same. You know, you go in,
Mm-hmm.
you get a ship or a piece of a ship, and then you're set to salvage it. And then you sell the parts, and you go over and over. You have small missions, but you work with the same tools over and over again to reach a certain level and upgrade them so that they get better, but you still do the same thing. And sure, there are physics moments and such, but it's... I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
They might not be meant for like the brain of a content creator, but rather, like, if you... And I had this wonderful long conversation with one of my mods not long ago, while we were just playing Cast and Chill in multiplayer.
Mm-hmm.
And it was simply a backdrop for just having a conversation together.
Mm-hmm.
It provided just enough distraction for the brain so that we were just kind of vibing. And I think Ship Graveyard Simulator 2 and Firefighter Simulator, they provide just enough of that, because there's going to be a point fairly quickly where you have full understanding of how to approach things, how to do things, even with random events going on, that it's going to be like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, this is where we do, this is how we do it. And then you just kind of go on it as automation.
Mm-hmm.
So it provides some distraction while you're in that world. And
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, they have their own purpose and everything, but it's not necessarily games I would recommend highly to anyone. But
Yeah.
But it follows the so-called 2-beer rule that Cthulhu talks about. If it has the cost of 2 beers and it gives enjoyment of more than 1 hour, then it's a win. or it has the same cost as 2 beers and then gives more than 1 hour, then it's a win. You know,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, and he's not wrong. He's not wrong.
Well, especially if it doesn't give you a hangover.
Especially if it doesn't give you a hangover, exactly. Because who wants a hangover? Dear God.
Funnily enough, actually, now that I mention that, that's one of the things I've got to be really careful with those games. As someone who's slightly sensitive to, you know, getting headaches and things and nausea from the motion in games.
Yeah.
Not talking about motion blur. That can go take a long walk off a short beer. But just generally, even things like Farm Sim, if I go first person walking around, I've got to be careful that I time box that and I don't go like walking for half an hour or whatever, because they eventually, that one's one of the better examples. That's very smooth experience and not so bad as long as I'm not doing too much left and right. But games generally like that, especially ones you can walk around in, can be quite rough. I remember one that I really enjoyed that we played together was Contractville. But that game was an example where I can't play that for like 3 or 4 hours without having a hangover, essentially. For like 3 or 4 hours afterwards. You know, some games are terrible, and I can play like 3 minutes, and it's like, whoa. And then I'll be like, okay, I'm going to go and lie down, and I'll catch up with you tomorrow kind of thing. So, yeah, I don't know what it is. There's certain, I think a lot of those sim games might suffer from it because they might be in the same game engine or have a certain like baseline that they start with.
Yeah.
Because I've noticed it quite a bit on games that I've looked or I've tried to, you know, watch or looked at the trailers of or whatever, and I'm like, whoa, no, that one I can't. That one I definitely can't, and things like that. But you can't always tell from the videos up front until you get the game. I was very glad actually because I was worried that Ships at Sea might be like that for me, but thankfully it's got it, but it's smooth enough, and there's ways of, you know, not focusing on things too much that I can play it. But I've got to be a little bit careful when I play that one.
Yeah, and I think that one's only going to get better with time too, because they are working hard on optimizing and such, and that's not necessarily something that some of these other games will be too worried about, because there's a lot of shovelware out there.
Yeah.
But and especially with these daily life working kind of simulators, because they're there to make a quick buck and then they just go away.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, Ships at Sea is definitely also one of those where I can easily see that happening. But I'm surprised that Contractville doesn't allow for a third person or for a slight more adjustment with it, because of how much time you spend just walking around.
Yeah. That's the main one where I haven't come back to it, even though it was fun, because I'm like, for me, it's not yet at the point where it's worth the headache.
Yeah.
But that's very specific to how I get motion sickness or whatever you want to call it in a game. And yeah, thankfully it's not too common, but I've noticed that in that genre, that's where I've got to be most careful.
Yeah, I can easily see that being a thing. Yeah, definitely.
An example is some of those ones that people play, like Glue One's always playing the shop ones and that. I want to have a look at that one with the aliens, but I'm so wary of it. I'm like, yeah, but this could be just another one that I can't. I play 5 minutes and I'm done. So
the good thing about games like that is if you get them on Steam, you can get a refund of them if you're within, what is it, half an hour or something. Yeah, so if you play a tiny bit and you see, okay, no, this doesn't work, then a full refund will be available.
That's
thankfully true. So, however, while we're on kind of like this sort of idea, I think this next one is going to be problematic for you. But it is a great example of a game that does a single tracked task in a good way. So as opposed to some of these other sim games, Librarian, clean up the arcane library, I think is the full title, but Librarian game is pretty much what people have been calling it. Is tidy up the arcane library. Sorry, tidy up. Let me just correct that while we're live. We'll fix it in post. They say.
Tidy that up, will you?
Yeah. See what you did there. Tidy up the arcane library is simple. It's very straightforward. You get dropped into an arcane library. where there's been a gnome or goblin or fairy or something loose that has jostled up the entire library of the university, where Merlin is currently the headmaster. Or someone called Merlin. I don't know if it's the Merlin.
Right.
And you simply start out looking at this giant pile of 3,072 books and 400 separate shelves, where you're like, okay, I'll pick up that book. Then you look at the title of it, and then you go over to one of two maps. It's one for the lower floor and one for the upper floor. And you look at it and you go, okay, what's this book called? Oh, it's called The Ultimate Choice. Poop flavored curry or curry flavored poop. That is an actual title of a book in the game. Don't at me.
Yeah.
And then you need to figure out what category is this in. Spoiler alert, that's a philosophy book. So then you take that to the philosophy shelf and you put it in the right place. How do you know what the right place is? Well, first and foremost, you have up to 10 books in a series. They can be as little as 3, they can be 5, or up to 10. And then it will say on the title of that, if it's 1 through 10, then you find the right place in the shelf and you put it in there. If you've put it in the right place, it'll give a slight golden shimmer as it's put in. If it's not in the right place, let's say it's in a like you have the same book series in a different shelf. Oh, it'll give like you're in the right shelving area, like you're in the right section, but you're not in the right shelf. So it'll give a little red glow. But if you're nowhere near, it'll just be like, no, nothing. Like it won't give you an indicator. It's just hello.
Right.
And then it's it's something about the calming music going on in the background and just the very straightforward task of figuring things out and looking at these books and kind of going, okay, you know what, this time I'll focus on cleaning up this little corner. I'll find out where these 17 books go. And then you put them away. And as you go on, you get access to magic.
Right.
That can help you see what shelf it goes into. So once you pick up a book, it'll highlight the shelf. Or you get access to magic to see where are the rest of the books in the series. You know, they kind of highlight around on the floor wherever they are. There is the magic to automatically put a book away as long as you're standing in front of the right shelf and you use that magic. It'll put it in the right place.
Okay.
And then you have the one where like it automatically sorts everything in your hand. So let's say you have 10 books in the same series in your hand, but they're 2, 7, 5, you know, they're all jumbled. Well, then you have Major Magic to sort them automatically. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10. And the last one is where you pick up a book and then you summon the rest of the other books in that series into your hands. And like you start out with being able to hold 10 books, meaning you can hold a whole series. But if you hold other books while you use that, well, then it'll summon some of them. There's no rhyme or reason to which ones of them it'll do, but it'll summon some of them. But then you can get upgrades that allow you to carry up to 15 books. So yeah, no, it's a very nice little game. And once you go through everything, you get an evaluation from the headmaster about how well you did. Talking about how you like, did you sort everything correctly? How quick were you? You know, and how many times you used magic and everything. And
Right.
And it's turned into a whole speedrunner game for people. But I can, without a doubt, say that for my sake, the chill nature of it, because I've been watching people play it, and at first I've been like, oh, okay, why this magic is just, it's just turning into a clicker game. I'm like, but I sat down and I played, and I was like, no, it's allowing me to play in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
And like there are multiple different ways for people to enjoy it, and it genuinely made me happy to test it out and see that, okay, you know what? Yeah, I like this. This is good. It shut off the brain for a bit while playing it. And yeah, no, I can fully recommend it. It's a super nice little game.
Cool.
And I'm just unsure if it'll play well for someone that might get seasickness or such from motion, but you'll have to test it out if you want to.
Right. Yeah.
And that has been my cozy game for a bit. But now I've completed that. I'll probably play it more times just to see if I can beat my own time. But I've gotten another game that is now my new cozy game. It's called Rune Dice. Have you seen this?
No.
Okay. Very simple idea. It's kind of like Slay the Spire. You have an open path where you choose if you want to go one side or the other, and all depending on what side you go, you get to a place where you need to fight. The way you fight is you use dice.
Okay.
You have a 6-sided die in your hand, and it always starts on 1. And around on the table in front of you are multiple other die. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. When you hit your 1 die into another die that has 1, that combines to a 2. This 2 die will then try to hurl itself at the nearest other 2, combining that to a 3, and so on and so forth. This makes up for your attacks against the enemies. The enemies will have HP, and for every 1 die that hits it, well, that's 1 HP. For every 2 die, that's 2 HP, and so on. And then you have other effects on it. And in and of itself, it sounds a bit too simplistic, but then there are mechanics in it that it turns into a bit of a tactical game, but at the same time, it's super casual. The music is cool. It has some pop culture references, like the rogue that you start out with. He's called John Wickblade. And then you have there's a centurion you can unlock. He's called Maximus Crow. So yeah, it has these tiny references, and then different classes have different abilities, and then you just try to level them up and fill up this little tavern of people where you start out from. So no, it's a fabulous, fun little game. And I'm trying to remember, because there's a warrior class there that has, what's his name? Rune Dice. I need to just look this up very quickly. Yeah, Rune Dice, blah blah blah. How to get all the people. I want to see the name of the people. No. Ah, come on. Heckin'. Okay, Reddit. Reddit will be my savior. Will it? It will not. No, it will not. God damn. Someone's just posted a link to their own thing. Okay, warrior class. There we go. Yeah. Nanook the Barbarian. It's part of the warrior class. And what does Nanook spell backwards? Grumbles.
Huh? Canon?
No.
I don't know.
Conan.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Conan the Barbarian. Which is something you've been playing.
Perfect.
I tried. I tried.
Yeah, that's my brain not working out letters backwards.
It's fine. It's fine. How has Conan been now after the revamp?
Conan has been fantastic. I always have been. Well, okay. So my history with that game is I tried it and I was like, this is a bit like weird to get into and very violent. I was like, I mean, I knew the films and everything from when I was young, and I was like, I'm not sure if I get this, because it was like running around and everything was trying to kill you. Because I was being silly and like trying to engage everything, and I was like, okay, Conan. It kind of has like the way it works. The progression is like sort of southern starting area on the Exiled Lands starter map, as it were. Is like, the noob territory, but then it's sprinkled with a few dangerous things here and there. And then as you go further out, either far east, west, and then especially north, you get into more and more danger. And, at the beginning, it's deadly. So I wasn't really cognizant of that when I started playing. I was like, oh, this will probably just be like the newbie area, so I'll just go and get into a fight with everything I see. No. Don't do that. And also just like even taking on, like even when you get to hyenas and stuff, you're already in big trouble because of the way they kind of move. And then you get packs of them and you're screwed because they all like stun you or, whatever,
right.
Cripple your movement and stuff. So my first impression was like, bloody hell, this is hard to play. I hate it. Never playing it again. Then I kind of gave it another go and also started to get into a bit more role-playing stuff. And then fast forward to today, and I have 1,023 hours in it.
Yep.
So, yeah, I would say I'm a huge fan. I am a huge fan of this game. I love it to bits. And there's 2 points to this. One is just the game and its lore and the depth in the game. Was also another challenging part that a lot of the recipes are kind of hidden. You're given some kind of rough clues or some basic recipes to things, but a lot of things are just in the game and you just either try them out or you look them up or you learn from other people in or out of character, whatever, as you go. But a lot of things are just not obvious, although you could apply some real life knowledge or wisdom to some aspects of it. But like, for example, putting fish in a press to get some oil out of it. Okay, you can see that. You could maybe either try that out or it. But there's other things like you can crush coal and get tar. And it's like, that's not quite how that works, I don't think. But anyway, so just as a couple of like examples. But when you get into role playing with it, or even if you're just playing co-op with some friends, that game, and as well, even as a solo, like did a beginner's guide that was got a little bit of traction on it. It is just so immersive, and what they've done with the enhance, where they've ported it all, or whatever you call it, moved it to Unreal Engine 5, but they haven't just done that and be like, there you go. They've touched pretty much all of the assets and just added detail, better smoke, better lighting, better shade, better, dust details, little swirls of dust in the ground, the storm looking better than ever before with lightning coming out of it and things like that. Just everything feels more vibrant and more alive and more immersive than ever before. The music's at a little bit of polish, not just the menu music, but like in-game and everything. And just the NPC AI, whilst there's still like patterns you can learn. I mean, there kind of has to be. It's a game.
Hold on,
But,
wait, well, hold on. I
yeah.
just gotta jump in here because you mentioned
Yep.
the Storm, and it strikes
Yep.
me that this is the same studio that does Dune. Who in the Dune or in the Funcom leadership is it that has some sort of traumatic event with a dust storm?
I don't know, but
Because
it's a good point.
there's a weird obsession here, I feel.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So it was either they were inspired by it from reading when they were young or watching a movie or something, or you're right, probably their parents took them on some sort of, Sahara tour, and they're like, this is horrible, it's sad, it's evil, it gets everywhere. So, sorry, Frosty. I hate sand. Anyway, the update has also brought like some quality of life stuff and adaptations in that direction. And I mean, the net effect, like all the dungeons have been polished. So everything, everywhere you go, is just more vibrant. And one of the other things as well that I've always loved about Conan, which it's a double-edged sword, because it's just that the maps now, both the base map and the main DLC maps, Isle of Sipta, are both directly connected. You can travel between them now with a little, loading screen or whatever. But you can travel across both maps. Both maps are huge. And one of the most amazing aspects with the new one is you can pretty much see, obviously depending on weather conditions, actual in-game weather conditions, and altitude and all the rest of it, but you can pretty much see across the whole map. But it'll still be, I've never done it, so I don't know that, people can let me know in the comments if you know or whatever, but even just jogging or running it, you can do, hour plus runs in that world easily. But you can see, oh look, there's a volcano in the distance, Oh,
Right.
look, there's a big tower over there in the jungle. Obviously, depending on the scale of the point of interest you're looking at, and it just makes the whole thing feel epic. Because rather than before, where you had, I mean, I have got the view distance on ultra or whatever, but even when you lower it down a little bit, that's affecting more other assets like people's houses and where animals are and things like that. But you're still seeing the whole. That you're in this huge world. Which similar to the experience we had with the Dune world. So that's definitely been an experience or an element that they've been able to take across. And it's, I would say, I think it is far beyond, like it'll be compared to other things, like games that give you a sense of like, oh yeah, there's a mountain over there, whatever. Conan also does a bit of that, but what it does more than any other game, maybe with parallel with Dune, is, oh, that really big mountain over there isn't just like an illusion. So your brain goes, oh yeah, there's a big horizon, and what it's like, oh, you can actually visit that mountain. For the most part, obviously not to the south where there's the magical barrier and all the rest of it, but that's part of the lore in the world. But it's hard to convey. It's the same kind of thing I got when I went into Dune the first time when we were on the closed beta back in the NDA days. It was like, my goodness, this is an epic scale. Like, this is just huge. Not just like, there's other games where, I don't know, maybe like an Ark or something like that, where that there's a big volcano or whatever mountain over there, and maybe it's one of those where it's also scale like that's so much further away that you wouldn't see it. But those games give you more of a like, okay, then we're going to move towards that chunk of the map, so you'll start seeing it. In this one, you're literally, because we've built and living in a tower on the Nordheim server, and it's like from the top of our tower you can see vast swaths of like the map that you can actually visit. And that is just, so essentially what happens is everywhere you go, there are these viewing points where you want to just stop and just, we'll just put a chair down and a campfire and just sit here for half an hour and tell a story. Like everywhere you go in the map.
Yeah.
And that's quite an incredible achievement, I think.
It's cool when games do that in a good way.
Yep.
So the enhanced version has brought in visual aspects. what else has it touched on to make the game more approachable or enjoyable?
So the AI of like the monsters and whatnot you're fighting, and the and NPC characters and that is greatly improved, much more reliable than ever before. It's always was okay, and it gave you a good challenge, but now it's like different attacks and different styles that the NPCs can go through actually have more meaning. Like you still know what's coming if you've played a bit of the game, but it's mobs make a difference, and it changes the way you go about your tactics and what your chosen path and weaponry is all much more integral. So like your build has more meaning, and you can see the impact of it. So that is an important element, because they've had a lot of trouble because they've tried to make things smarter and smarter. So they've had a lot of difficulties with with some of that AI logic, and they seem to have mostly nailed it. It'll still get weird janky moments, as any video game has, but you can be a lot more forgiving of it now because it works more often than it doesn't work. And they'll do things like, oh, you can't just hop down that hill then stand on that stone near their base. They'll be like, no, we're after you, we're still coming, and they'll find a path to you and stuff like that. So that's cool. Other things that they've changed are like crafting from stations and tables, and even from the inventories of your NPCs now. So if you have a load bearer or a horse with a load of stuff on it and things like that, that'll all just count to what's available to you in your kind of building and crafting radius. There are a couple of exceptions that they haven't quite added in yet, like the golem table I found was an interesting one. But that's kind of obscure. You learn that knowledge in game by going to somebody that's got that knowledge and talking with them. So that might be a reason why that's different, or hasn't been included in this pass. But yeah, being able to kind of like centralize your storage and be able to build and craft from that is pretty awesome. Some of the things they already had in prior updates, like now you have these kind of living settlements where your NPCs can kind of wander around the place and whatnot. Or you can set them in certain positions to guard or do certain emotes like dancing and whatever. But now, so for a while they've had it so that if you have like a shield maker expert thrall that you've been able to bring into your team, they can be wandering around or doing whatever, and all their buffs and recipes apply to all the relevant benches within a decent radius. I don't know what the exact number is, but many meters. So that you don't have to, and all the recipes are in the crafting stations. So
they're not physically tethered to the table.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
And that gives it more of an alive feeling when you're playing on your own, or you don't, when there's not many people around on co-op servers or LP servers. So yeah, and there's I'm trying to think what some of the other things are. Like some of the things that they've changed significantly have been like in prior updates, and they did a few quality of life updates before this one. Kind of, they kept the lid on this quite tight. So there was an NDA test thing, but even that was only a few months ago. So they've been obviously working on this for quite a long time, and I'm just really impressed with the quality of what they've done and how they've gone about it. Very good job by Funcom, and of course just giving it as a free update to anyone that already owns the game and the deal, or game plus the DLCs, either or.
That's pretty cool. Yeah. That is honestly a pretty big thing for them to commit to.
Yep.
But then again, it helps them shine a light on both Conan and on Dune. Because the more emphasis they can have, or the more time in the spotlight they can have on themselves, they are also able to spotlight their other games. And like, even though Dune and Conan share a lot, like, I feel like they want to promote their own product, even though they're kind of like they're sort of competing, like in a strange way. But
oh yeah, definitely for their all the development, their art teams, everything. They haven't got a bottomless pit. So they did cherry pick a lot of the best people from the Conan teams, obviously, to work on the Dune to make it as effective as possible. And there was quite a lot of lamenting in the Conan player base and whatnot for quite some time, because it was like, well, are we going to get anything? Because they were just doing like little quality of lives, and people worried, is this the end of it, and all the rest of it. And I was kind of the mind, well, this might be where Funcom goes, well, we made a ton of cash off that Dune thing, that's great, we'll keep trying to plug away at that. Let's make Conan 2.
Yeah.
And because I was kind of like, imagine if they did Conan 2 with the Dune technology or whatever. And whilst not everything obviously is made it across or whatnot, or at least not in this free version, you know, the stuff that they've brought in and learned and put in this launch is just quite incredible, really, again, for free.
It's kind of fun to see them utilize things both ways, because it's clear that they took lessons from from Conan into Dune, and it's also clear that they've taken lessons from Dune into Conan now. So yeah, no, it's if they now can just bring the I know it's not quite lore accurate, but if we can now have the variety of enemies that's in Conan, if we could have that in Dune too, that would, yeah, that would be good.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things, like, as I talked about one of my first impressions of the game versus where I am now, one of the really fun things with Conan is that there is this variety and also like threats kind of everywhere, but there's also lore and just other things to explore and experience, not just threats. I mean, the beginnings of Conan feel very much like you're running away from something every 5 minutes. That's totally true. But one of the good parts of it is you literally can run away, unless you're silly and you mess up your stamina or you run into a rock or whatever. But most of the time you can get yourself back out of trouble, unless you've like gone in a dungeon or whatever. But, you know, and that is one of the things that I cited as kind of feeling missing in Dune. You know, where you had both the variety, but also once you get comfortable, like the very early parts of Haga, you know, there's that feeling of the threat, because you have the Sardakan patrols and you have the sandworm and you have, you know, the little pockets of the gangs of smugglers and whatever else. But once you get to the middle part of the game, it's more, the onus becomes on you. I found you have to go looking for trouble.
Yeah.
Drive through a trouble area. You know, you have to specifically. Whereas in Conan, maybe it's just there's just more, so many more. Like there's 1,000 more pockets of trouble that you can bump into or whatever. One of the things I think that would be super cool for Conan, I've thought about this in the past, and they've kind of done little bits of this, but more events and whatnot. But they did do one in particular. They had the Jabal Sarg kind of storyline. The I can't remember what it's called, the Midnight Hunt or something. I can't remember. But they had an event where at night, randomly, some hyena men would spawn in and come after you.
Yeah,
so you were
never,
you know, and you were never, you know, quite feeling whether you were 100% safe, and you could. You know, they weren't too hard to kill, but it was pretty like, oh God, I'm under, you know, I was just running across the desert back home and all of a sudden I'm under attack and whatever. So, and I quite like that because it brought an element of surprise that was like, you know, obviously you can get to the point where you've done 10 of them in a row and you're like, okay, leave me alone now. I'm trying to get home. But I liked that random element. And one of the things I'd always wished for in Conan that isn't there yet was kind of roving patrols, or like, you know, the Dafari go out on a hunt because they're looking for people to eat, you know, that kind of thing. And it would be kind of, you know, as fun as it is that you've got 1,000 pockets of danger that you can just spring in and out of on Conan, the one small bit that's kind of missing is like, but why are these people always just at their camp?
Right.
You know, why is it like, okay, I get that that's their camp, that's their strong point, but can you imagine a world where there's like, there are 15 NPCs that live in this camp, but sometimes you'll go through there and they might be out at night on a hunt, so there's only 5 of them there, and it's easier to kill them and get their loot, or, you know, and the rest, but their warriors are out in a war band somewhere, and if you go around that corner, you might suddenly run into the warriors coming home from their hunt, and now maybe they have like a little buff because it's during that little time span or whatever, like micro events going on. And then you suddenly get your comeuppance because you've run into their camp thinking it was easy to rob, and the rest of the gang was just around the corner or something, you know, or you just run into them in you're like, what are the Defari doing here on the edge of the jungle? And it's like, oh, because they've come here to hunt for food or whatever. They're killing these birds that live there. And I think that would be, and maybe I'm asking for too much, but I think those, like, they've done it already with this night hunt. And I think it'd be really cool if they could apply that logic sporadically so that you as a player, regardless whether you're role playing or not, but especially if you're role playing, you would never quite know, am I safe going around this corner or whatever? You can't just do the whole like, you know, oh, I'll just quickly run over there for my corpse or whatever. It's like, yeah, but you might, now you don't even have half your gear on you and you might be in big trouble because you might run into one of these roving patrols or whatever, or the hunting warbands or something. I think that would be super cool.
I would genuinely love for more stuff like that in Dune. Like they literally have the starter card. They have these the smugglers. Like they have all of these bands and factions of people that they could use for something to make the world feel a bit more alive.
Yep.
So we're not necessarily talking raids on your bases or anything, but we're talking just make it feel a bit more, you know, I don't always have to go looking for trouble. I could simply be out and about trying to do some farming, and then, oh shoot, here's a Sardaukar raid incoming. Either I need to fight them off, or I need to hide from them. You know.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, it's exactly that. We saw really small snippets of it where it'd be like this group is having an active battle with this other group, and you could either interject yourself and like take advantage of that because half of them are dead or injured or whatever, or you know you're not interested in that particular area. But typically, and I thought that was really cool at first, but you saw so little, and it was all so like therefore repetitive because you'd see these. Okay, there's these little 5 points here, and that's where a scuffle broke out, and that's it. I think. Can you imagine where exactly what you've described and what I've described? It was like there's those crystals that are only in that one spot, but everybody needs them.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that other raiders go out in a little party with like a buggy, 2 bikes, and they drive in there to go and get some of that crystal, but they're at odds with the group that protects that area. So they start having a fight because there's a raiding group, or when you're driving down to get some crystal, you run into a hostile group coming back out with a load of crystal on them. And you've got the choice, run away or fight them and steal what they've just been harvesting for you, that kind of thing.
Like, just imagine you are fighting your way in to get this, and then suddenly you're, there's a Sardaukar raid, or, you know, whatever, incoming. It's like, oh, shoot. Oh, no. Oh, crap. Because then you are fighting your way to get in there before suddenly you have them at your back.
Yeah.
Or you need to fall back and get rid of the incoming raid before you can go further. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Or even like from a roleplay point of view as well, it could be great because you can align yourself with one group and say, man, I'm on board with these smugglers. I can't stand these other like border carriers or whatever. You know, I can't remember all the names now, but so you, and then you get the call, like maybe you get a flash up on your comm badge or something that's like, there's a raider attack on XYZ location, and it could be one of like 15 different locations where that band has got a little stronghold or an outpost, and you're like, okay, am I going to go and mine crystal, or am I going to fly over there to try and, you know, get some reputation or get some rewards by helping defend, or am I going to become turncoat and be like, I'm here to help you, haha, knife in the back,
yeah,
kind of thing.
Like, you already have the reputation system, so why not play on that? You know.
Yeah.
If you are within good standing of a faction, then this could lead to literally having reinforcements, and it could be random. Like it could literally be random. Either you end up getting help, or there's someone you're neutral towards, and then you need to kind of take a stance, or there's someone who's your enemy, and then oh shoot. Now I'm in an enemy sandwich, you know. It could be good. That in and of itself could add a lot of variety that I think could be good, but I still feel like there needs to be more than just one flavor of enemy, like, because it's only humans so far and the worm, but you can't really fight the worm. So
Yeah, I
yeah,
agree with that as well. I thought we spoke about it a year ago when we were playing. Is like there needs to be something else going on. There needs to be other threats. There needs to be because, as I said, otherwise what you do is you just build up your base, and then the mind naturally meanders and focuses eventually in on. I need to go and grind. I need to go to this area. I have to go and look for trouble
mm,
because I need the stuff that's in the box at the end of that room, and that is immersion breaking.
yeah,
Or it's leans heavily towards immersion breaking. So for most people that will break the immersion, or unless people are just playing it because hey, this is just a video game and they don't care about immersion anyway. So yeah, I think we should be talking to Funcom about this because I think these ideas are probably in line with the technology capability they have.
definitely.
And I mean, I still laud them. I still think it's a fantastic product, an amazing
Oh yeah,
accomplishment that they made. But they went so big on the tech, and they went so big on the world on like the macro kind of level. But they didn't. Now and it's kind of what they are doing now. Not to be too critical of them, but now they've recognized that they need to, for longevity, they need to do what Conan Exiles does, which is go really big on the story and what's actually there in the world to interact with, because that's the difference, I think, between something surviving a year or two and then everyone going, but there's just nothing new, there's nothing else to do. Whereas Conan's got this high replayability because it's really unlikely and hard for everyone to have experienced everything. And now they just go and update it to UE5 and make it all look and feel more stunning and fun than ever before. So, yeah.
Both of them are
And we
big
haven't even gotten to
games.
Sipta yet.
Yeah, no, both of them are big games. They still have plenty of potential for both story and development and other things. I just, like you said, I really hope Funcom are able to follow through on things. Because there are other games out there that have really shown us some absolute amazing storytelling and thoughts and ideas and like the fantasies of reaching completely foreign worlds and delivered on it. And I think the only thing holding them back is the fact that there's so much established lore.
Yep.
So I hope that they are able to maybe take a step back and just say, you know what? Yeah, we can introduce something new. Because they've guaranteed done that with Conan.
Yep.
There's no way that all the creatures that are in Conan as part of this have been introduced through the comic books and books and whatnot. I refuse to believe that. But we spoke about fantastic worlds and it kind of being exiled. Aphelion. Not really exiled as such, but it is you're suddenly thrown far away and into the mix of something that is how do I describe this? How would you describe this? Like, what is your feeling of Aphelion? Like, what hit you the first time when you started playing this?
I think it was one of those ones where they had kind of they have a big backdrop, world in big trouble, last chance of survival, this kind of thing, new planet discovered in the solar system, maybe there's a chance there. So you've got this whole huge thing like as a backdrop, but then they like narrow it right down to, well, we've sent a couple of people off I don't want to. I'm trying to dodge spoilers here, but
Yeah.
it's pretty difficult.
Uh-huh.
But they basically say, okay, we've got this a bit like the movie or whatever, in the book, the Project Hail Mary or whatever. It's like, well, we've got a chance if we go and investigate this new planet we've discovered that appears to be like covered in ice and whatnot, and the backdrop is all kind of like running out of water and everything's end of the world kind of stuff. Then, maybe we can send future generations there and that kind of thing. So you go on this kind of sci-fi adventure, but you pick it up from the point of view of like a couple of people who are sent there to investigate and do their thing. Unfortunately, catastrophe is struck, and something weird has happened that they don't understand. And it's resulted in them crash landing. And these two astronauts, scientists, whatever, they've been separated because a bit of the ship went over there and a bit of the other ship went over there. So, I think she was coming in like a landing vessel or whatever. So you start off from this catastrophic incident with this, end of the world, end of mankind kind of species level existential crisis. And then it focuses in rapidly on, firstly, well, I've got to survive, I've got to get out of this shipwreck, and what the hell's going on? She can't, they're having radio trouble and she can't get in touch with the other half, as it were. And then it starts to play into this story of like, who are these two people and what's their relationship, and all that kind of stuff develops as you go along. And you see right at the beginning that they're sort of an item, but she makes the decision of like, well, look, this is cool and all that, but we have a mission to do, and it's top priority by far, because it's like everyone lives or dies from this, so we can't be distracted by anything. So it starts with a bit of a, sad note, as it were, but like, let's focus on the mission kind of thing. And off they go as sensible adults. And then the story just starts to unfold in a way of like, with a few nice little twists and turns. Again, I don't want to spoil it for anybody because it is a nice story. I played it was about just under 10 hours or so. So, that's why I've got to be extra careful with it. And yeah, it sort of develops the characters a little bit. It's nicely kind of animated and voice acted, and I did it on like a story mode setting. So it was like, they were like little puzzles and challenges, but it was not, I'm no good at those kinds of things, and platform elements of games and that are just my nemesis. So it was like, thankfully I could do it in a way where it was like, we mostly didn't fail. But it meant it stayed more immersive and just was about following and completing the story, as it were. And what I really liked is that they did the thing where they split you up into chapters, and some of the chapters were with each of the other characters. So you did a bit from like her point of view, and then you did a bit of like his point of view, and then there was some sort of funky time dilation things going on, and you're like, hang on a minute, what's going on here? Not everything is as straightforward as it appears. And yeah, and it just, and then, there's a threat, which is not a spoiler because literally the synopsis on Steam says, you're haunted on a frozen planet. I was like, okay, that's a good start. Yeah, and it's just, she in this case is trying to get to, her fellow astronaut and or partner possibly, but also keeping the mission focus and trying to get to the objective and all the rest of it. And you've got to make it's not one of those games where you're making these big decisions. It's not that type of thing. But she, as the story unfolds, you're seeing decision points, and she's having to, make those decisions and press on kind of thing. Yeah. And I enjoyed it. I got my 10 hours worth or whatever. I was lucky enough to get that provided for me by third parties in the dev team, so I'm very appreciative of that. And yeah, I think just really nicely put together, nicely animated, nice soundscape, nice immersion, settings that allow you to enjoy it with more or less challenge depending on what your sort of gaming level and preferences are. I thought that one of the characters was a little bit more strongly written, in terms of script and arc. than the other, but it didn't detract significantly from the overall experience. You do have to suspend disbelief in regards to, I don't believe, and this is not a gender thing at all, I don't believe any human being, even with a spacesuit and whatever modern tech, I doubt you're not wearing an exosuit. So some of the things that they were able to do in terms of leaping across rocks for like hours on end, you might, if you're a proper rock climber and all that, they've got ridiculous abilities and stamina and that. But even they would like, you're not, you don't go and scale. I say, I'm going to scale Everest, but I'm actually going to go through each Himalayan mountain all the way along, and then get to the pit. And I've done that by dinner time or whatever. Which it had a little bit of a feeling like that, although there's some degree of, like I said, the time dilation and time. I think that they could have benefited from introducing a couple of story breakpoints where it's like, okay, and then she has to get in a little tent thing with this high tech, this fantastical tech from the future where she can survive overnight in a tent or whatever, and that kind of thing. And they could have added a few story elements like that would have made the thing feel more believable, but there was this time imperative. So, but yeah, worth playing through that story if you're really into those kind of things and you're more. I wouldn't really say you'd pick that up for the challenge of like, can you achieve all the jumps and the puzzles? But it's there if you really like that. You can amp that up a little bit.
Yeah,
I think there were like 3 or 4 levels, and I went on with like the story level.
I was surprised at how short it was.
Yeah.
Like the production value of everything and how it looked and such. I was like, oh man, okay, this is going to be a big game. It's going to be maybe 20, 25 hours, maybe even 30 hours of story, and it's going to leave a possibility of more. And then I was like, hold on, we're done already?
Yeah.
Hold on. Like, what? No. and I was just kind of like, oh, okay. Well then.
I definitely took that feeling away from it as well. That's what I mean about the breaks and the story, and that it was nicely done in terms of chapters and things, but it did feel a little bit like, well, hang on, this is like not even 3 books condensed into one, more like one book that you cut, half a dozen chapters out. I think it could have been twice as long as a minimum, and it would have felt more satisfying overall. Like, it was satisfying for what it was, but it was more like, let's play the first couple of episodes in the TV season rather than playing through the movie. Or I fully agree with that as well. It's a very important point that I'm glad you brought up. It's it could have been, like, when you started saying numbers, I was like, it could have been 30 hours.
I would
without
have
having
to
be
see
like
a 30-hour story out of it.
Yeah, and I hope it doesn't turn into a, here's Aphelion 2, part 2.
Yeah.
And here's part 3, which I would get, obviously from a business point of view and all the rest of it. But I think it's too good. And it's also, it's like 30 euros as well.
Yeah.
It's not really expensive by today's standards, but it's not a cheap game.
No, for 30 euro, I would expect maybe at least 20 hours of story time for that kind of game.
Yeah.
For a game that has more puzzles and more focusing on mechanics of things than 10-hour story, sure, but then you would focus more on the puzzle of things and how you actually play the game. But Aphelion felt like it should have more story, straight up. Like it yeah.
Yeah. I would say, I suppose there's one, but people might have the thought and the counter argument of like, well, that's 10 hours on easy mode, potentially, if I played. But I would say, and I think you would agree, not that I'm not going to speak for you, but I think that just having to repeat parts because you failed, because you made it more difficult to jump or whatever, that's not the same as that. That's not the way to extend your games. I
No.
don't think.
No,
if it's a more story-oriented game.
Yeah, because that's the thing. I feel like that tells a story. It's not a game I play for the jumping puzzles or the climbing challenge or whatever. That's not that sort of game for me. So yeah, I don't know. There are probably ways you could do it, but I would love to see almost an expanse type of way of telling things in that setting and in that game. I think that would work really well.
Yeah.
Then again, expanse is it's such a high bar to reach. Let's be fair.
I mean, we could in one way simplify, but also nullify a lot of our conversations with games if they go anywhere into that genre or that aspect, because you just say, well, we'll start with Red Dead Redemption 2. Okay, everything else fails. So it's just a question of how close did you get? Have you attained the top 10? Where are you on that scale kind of thing? So I'm always wary of trying to not do that. And
but you know what I mean, like the style
100%.
of storytelling that Expanse did. I feel like that could work really well there, because there's more things than just the survival on this crazy planet they've come to, right?
Yes,
there's more to it than just the splitting of and the time shenanigans and everything. There's more to it there. There's the whole journey there. There's the reason why we are there, and they feel more like footnotes in the story rather than any major plot point that could easily be explored, or like hell, even tell it as a story through a cutscene to feel like, okay, you've now done this ordeal. Let's do a deep dive into a memory. Why are we here?
Yeah, exactly. I've got one last thing I've got to throw, because and then I'm conscious a bit of time as well. One last thing I would say, and because it's important, because I know people might also be considering getting it or not, and that kind of thing. Where I really thought they missed the mark, unfortunately, and it didn't spoil it overall for me. But ironically, the beginning, and you were just talking about cutscenes, that's what brought it up to me. The beginning has some cutscenes to kind of set the scene.
Yeah.
And I thought that was odd. I get what they were doing and what they were going for, but it felt kind of rushed or something, or not, maybe that wasn't the right edit for the final cut or whatever, but that's the one they went with. And funnily enough, the very ending, and it was the same, because myself and all of chat, we had the same played like 2 days, 10 hours through. And all of us were kind of, it was that moment where you kind of all like look at the camera, obviously in this case, but we're like looking at each other and like, huh. I thought, so, because what they didn't do, the two things is the beginning didn't really set up the scope, but through the rest of the story, it built it up. So it got much better. So you had to get past that and then like, okay, I get more of it now. And there's more, it feels like there's more at stake, both for the individual characters and the arc and the bigger story. And then the very ending, what they didn't do is that it didn't really loop. It didn't close the loop or in any way loop back and connect to everything else. I think they thought, oh, ta-da. And it was like, it's like, let's have a big surprise birthday party for everybody, and there'll be a cake, and it'll, be a huge surprise, whatever. And then the actual moment comes, and the person walks in, and it's like, there's a cake, but like they forgot to have the room. They didn't bring any of the guests in. Yeah. So just a person walks into like, oh, there's just like a cake on the kitchen table. What's it felt like that. Like, oh, I got cake, but the point was to have the surprise cake and the birthday party or whatever. Like the cake wasn't the point, So it was kind of like, oh, no one turned up, kind of, and it felt like that. The ending. Which, again, I don't know if there's because they have an intention to do something else in that universe or like a follow-up to it or whatever. Maybe that's their ideas. but I don't think you can. It didn't leave you hankering for like, oh man, I can't wait. Wow, and the way that ended, I can't wait for
Yeah.
part two.
Yeah.
It left you on like, oh,
Oh,
okay.
well.
Again, trying to avoid spoilers, but I think you kind of get what I'm. It wasn't terrible, but it was just like, oh,
Yeah.
I felt like I went through more of an emotional roller coaster from like chapter 2 to 10 or whatever it was, and then like 1 and 11 were like, if I'd just seen 1 and 11 or a bit of a trailer, I'd be like, I don't know if I watched that.
Yeah, no, exactly. No, I'm right there with you, and it is one of those where you really wish that they would do just that tiny bit more because of that roller coaster that is the earlier chapters, you know?
Yeah.
And then you just kind of sit there going, oh, well, okay, moving on.
Yeah.
And then you've moved on, you know? Speaking of moving on,
Yes.
Ixion
Mm-hmm.
is also set in space.
Yes.
And I've heard, like, okay, so I haven't seen much Ixion gameplay. I haven't played it. I haven't, like, it's not a title that makes me go, oh shoot, because it has never grabbed me. I don't know why. I like something like Frostpunk. You hear it and you go, oh, what's this about? Like, it grabs you. It gets a hook in you. Ixion gives me nothing. This could be a Japanese telenovela for all I care. It could be a wonderful Tetris-like game. It could have been a game about a little robot that does a dance. I don't know. Like, it has nothing that it tells me what this is. What is Ixion?
So, I had exactly the same thoughts. And I got it as part of like a charity bundle, I think somewhere along the lines. And I was curious. I'd seen Cringer play like about 5 minutes of it. When it came out, quite a ways back. I think I'm like a couple of release date December 7th, 2022. So a little bit late. So here's how I got to this. Space anyway is always the thing that's popping in and out of trends, or not trends, but my interests, let's say.
Space, the continuous frontier.
Exactly. The continuous occasional thing that pops up continuously in and out of the vacuum that is my mind. Anyway, I was just like, I'm conscious of time, and now I'm just filling it with even more silly. Anyway,
it's fine.
But I want to do this game justice because it's really deserving of it. So here's the thing: I had more or less the same start point with you, where it had just sat in my library for quite a long time. At least a year. I think I got it in a charity thing the year before. Can't remember exactly when. And I was like, it looks really cool. It's got lovely artwork and everything. It's got an interesting name, Ixion. Like, well, it's a word that sort of brings curiosity wherever to my mind. And then looking at the picture with the great rotating ship. And unfortunately, I'd had this little glimpse of Cringer playing it, where it was like the big rotating, like the big round ship thing. And you just kind of, like, you're playing Tetris because you're like, how can I fit these buildings together and whatever. And I was like, oh, I don't know if I fancy that. And it didn't really remind me of Frostpunk kind of that in really much at all. Which I absolutely adore Frostpunk. Well, I think it's phenomenal. One of the best games I've ever played. So I was like, oh, the kind of the interface sort of put me off a little bit, and I'd just never seen the bits where he like zoomed out and looked at the space part and everything. And I will add to this because I've reread as part of what we're talking about. I'm rereading the synopsis or whatever on the little blurb on Steam. I'll read it back, right? So it says, Ixion is an unrelenting city-building odyssey across the stars. As administrator of the Tycoon Dolos's prototype space station, you are tasked with balancing preservation and exploration as you manage infrastructure, resources, and crew. Can you keep the flame of humanity alight in the cold dark? Sounds quite exciting.
It does.
But the one thing is, at least for me, I'm like, maybe it's at the very beginning, this unrelenting city building odyssey across the stars as administrator, and then I'm like, oh, okay, well, what? You've lost me a little bit. I don't. Now, what I will say is, and this is really, there's no other way I can think of putting this, or haven't thought of it yet. What this game has, so sorry, let me different point to start with, is what brought me to this game, or back to, or to it in the first place, whatever you want to call it, is the soundtrack. So I stumbled across through my YouTube algorithm, whatever, it fed me a bunch of things, and there was lots of Space Marine stuff and Mechanicus Adept and all this kind of stuff, just popping things I don't know that much about, but I've always been a little bit intrigued and curious, but I've never had the time to delve into. And lots of these things were like popping up, and I like Frostpunk soundtracks and stuff like that. And somehow the rabbit hole took me to the soundtrack for Ixion. I was like, oh, I've got that game. It doesn't grab me somehow. I've never looked at it. I listened to the soundtrack to Ixion, and I was like, holy cow, this is amazing. This is like one of the best game soundtracks I've heard in quite a while. There's a bunch of tracks on there that are just epic level. And I was like, this is so good, I'm going to play this game. So I started talking with Chad about it. I was like, wow, this is the first time I've listened to a soundtrack and been like, I've got to play this game. I've got it. So I'll have to fire it up and give it a go. And then I played it, and then the music and all that kicks in. And then what happens is, which isn't really given to you in the synopsis that I read, and I'm trying to be really careful because I don't want to spoil it, even though it's been a couple of years. I don't want to spoil this for anybody. What happens is you get a Frostpunk-esque, like in a very different setting, but you get a Frostpunk-esque kind of story. Just slowly, just starts little snippets of it, little tiny bits creep in.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, there's more to this, because on the surface it just looks like you're just going to play this game. You're going to build a few houses, and it's going to be a city builder. But there's a whole story going on about how this has all come about and what you're doing and how you're these pioneers, and you've got this huge risk and whatever. But everyone's wishing you well, a little bit like the Aphelion thing. That's why they slot together well.
Yeah.
But and then I've played about 10 hours, right? Not because I don't want to play more. I want to play 100 more, but I haven't had time in the schedule and everything. Other things have come up that I've had to do. Then it's suddenly the story, and the best way I can put it without spoiling things, I think, it's the meme of I can't remember the character's name in the movie or whatever, but it's like oh boy, that escalated quickly.
Yeah, okay.
Because the story it sneaks up and it's creeping in, and you're meeting these characters, you're like your advisors and whatever, but everything's put squarely, like you're the one in charge. So if you're messing this up, it's on you, buddy, kind of thing. And you're clearly, you're going to be airlocked.
Right.
If when you get this wrong. So it's building up, and you're getting into the game, and the mechanics and everything, and the visuals are actually really good. Actually, when you're inside doing the main bit, is kind of in air quotes the weakest part. It's not bad. It's just when you go outside the ship and you look, and you've got the overview map as well of the solar system that you're in, it totally changes like your feeling of what's going on in the map. Then you've got this soundtrack just pumping along in the background, doing all these things, and it has these really key moments where it amps up a little bit. And then a really big, and it's towards that 9-hour kind of mark or whatever, it depends what speed you're playing at there as well, of course, right? But I'm playing on slow, enjoying the story kind of mode. Then bang, it escalates. And suddenly, it's, you're like, oh, you have that kind of like in Frostpunk, where I think Frostpunk hits you with that little bit more upfront of it's like you're screwed. So good luck, but survive as long as you can. Whereas Ixion plays it differently. It says these are really big stakes, but it plays it in a very almost like a sci-fi movie, like yeah, but we're all doing all right? We're ticking along, and look, we've got this big spaceship we've built, and we've got this new technology. So how bad can it be? And then bang. And I was not ready. I was shocked. And I'm so proud of chat, because chat, the ones that knew, were like, oh boy, now he gets it. And I was like, whoa, it was a full gut punch like feels. And I was like, this game's flipping amazing. why have I waited like 4 years to play the, why didn't anybody tell me?
How have I slept on this?
Yeah. That's Ixion. So to not,
Okay.
That's what I can say about Ixion, is if you've got it and it's lurking away in your library, dust it off and give it a go, because it's so far, again, I'm only 9 hours into it, but it's bitten me with the same in the same way that sort of Frostpunk has. That Frostpunk is still the one of those types, I think, but this has amped those stakes up and everything, and then as it progresses further, it's not just one and done, like, oh, that's it. It then progressively goes down the path of, like, you're in really big trouble.
Would you say that certain event makes certain that you know your role?
Yes. Well played.
Know your role. Thank you. I'm kind of proud of that one. Just a quick segment of Know Your Role. This time around, I started listening to a new actual play podcast called Real Housewives of DnD, because all the other podcasts that I'm listening to, I've caught up to. I'm current in them, meaning I can no longer be driving back and forth from work and just absolutely binging these. And then every week I'm like, I need more episodes. I've gone searching for even more, and I found Real Housewives of DnD through Dungeons and Daddies, and through one of the other podcasts that I listen to that have mentioned some of these other players and had them as guest players. Real Housewives of D&D is I'm not many episodes into the first season, but I'm like, oh my god. You know, like, I have a feeling that if you are familiar with Real Housewives memes and kind of the way that they do things on that reality show, no matter what location it is, be that New York or LA or whatever, you have a feeling of what is going to be going on. And I tell you, these actresses that are playing these characters, oh my god, they are absolutely nailing this, because you are not sitting there thinking, oh, I'm witnessing heroes. No, I am witnessing horrible people be thrust into a position where they need to make choices, and they just keep nailing down that horrible persona. And I'm just sitting here waiting for a redemption arc, which I have a feeling we're gonna get, but it's just I'm having a lot of fun, but I'm also having a lot of conflicting feelings about this series. But I know it's been going on for quite some time. So yeah, if you're looking for an actual play podcast, it actually has 2 DMs. And it's a super good production. And it's clear that they're having a lot of fun. So, and that's how I'm able to laugh along with it. And they have professional actors on it. And they're like in one of the after the after the fact kind of episodes, we're talking about what went on. They talk about some of the episodes leading up to it. There are a couple of moments of the production people going, "Oh shoot, that's her," and you kind of realize just how well they've lent into some of the roles and what they're doing. So, Real Housewives of D&D, I don't know why it's so addicting, but it is. So I can, like, so far I'll give it a solid 8.5 out of 10.
Right.
But
That's a good score.
I'm also gonna ask some people that would have issues with horrible toxic people to just hold on. Don't jump into it yet. I'll report back once I know more, okay?
Yeah.
But it is full of fun comedic catty drama, so if you enjoy that, go for it. But we're gonna just quickly move along to our next part, which is our creator insight, and I want to take a jumping off point about these toxic characters in Real Housewives of DnD and talk about other toxic things. Something that I realized not that long ago, how predatory it is, and it's the stream streaks on Twitch. There's a very certain event that made me think about this, because I was sitting in a stream watching, and then this I've like, one of the people that have been watching this streamer for a bit, like not that long, they've had a very curious way of interacting with the streamer. It's been fine, just weird. But it's given me a couple of moments of, okay, my, like, the hair on the back of my neck is getting raised here because there's some red flag behavior going on. And it's been worrying me. So I've just kind of, okay, you know what? I'm not going to engage with that person. It's fine. I'll watch the streamer, but I'm not going to engage with this person. And then not long ago, this one guy came in, and the first thing he said as part of that stream was, "I'm going to kill you." Like, in all caps. "You ruined my 11-day stream streak." And I was like, the first thing I didn't even wait for the streamer to say anything. The streamer just kind of, like, I noticed that they went slightly silent and wanted to just laugh it off and be like, "What are you talking about?" And I was like, "Do you want to walk that back, buddy? Do you want to rephrase that right now?" And they said, "No, I'm doubling down. The streamer caused me to lose my streak. First of all, no, that is not how that works. This is on you. If you lose a streak, it's not on the streamer. It's on you to figure out when and how and where the streamer streams, and there are ways for you to retain it, even if there is 1 or 2 streams that is on a different hour than you normally watch." Very important for me. However, it got me to think of just, like, there are personalities out there that really value these things. Like, there's the fear of missing out, the FOMO. Like, it's that addictive, watch number go up, can't miss a stream, can't miss something. And I want to point out, and, like, to the good of Twitch here, they have implemented many a way of keeping your stream streak if you want to, and if you're aware of it. But the fact that they're, like, I get where Twitch are coming from, but the fact that you can have this strong of a reaction, now this is probably an edge case, don't get me wrong, but the fact that someone can have this strong of a reaction to an 11-day streak, imagine if this was longer. My mod, Battlecat, is close to a 500 stream streak now. Could you imagine if this person had that close of a stream streak and then it went wrong? What would happen then?
Yeah.
So there's
absolutely.
There's a slightly predatory nature to these streaks. And I was talking to Ultrasaurus about it, and she has a few Twitch ambassadors in her stream, and her stream is a wonderful place to talk about these things because she lays the ground rules really well. And I just wanted to kind of gauge where are people sitting on these things, like what do they think of streaks and everything, and how do they think about this person's reaction. And a lot of people were like, we understand the reaction, but it's very extreme.
Mm-hmm.
But and like there was a very wonderful discussion. So this is my thank you to Ultrasaurus for kind of opening up the floor on that and being okay with the discussion, because and a thank you to the community for actually discussing it in a good way and not, you know, going off on one. But one of the things that popped up was allow the viewer themselves to enable or disable streaks, because right now it's on the channel itself if you want to have stream streaks available or not. And I'm thinking, yeah, that's cool. But do we want to enable people to create their own addiction? Like, there's so many aspects here. But at the core nature of things, I now see stream streaks as something that the idea is good, but it feels like something that isn't necessarily thought out well. And because I'm giving Twitch the benefit of the doubt here with how they've approached this. With the thought of it, because the thought is, hey, let's celebrate something cool together, you know, let's have streak, woo, and then it's a tiny celebration. There's nothing else than fake internet points there. Like, you don't gain anything else. Like, I think you get channel points as a bonus for it, but you gain that by just watching anyway. So yeah.
Yeah, I assume there'd be some sort of buff to it, or whatever, some bonus.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, first things first on that one specific case. Obviously, an outlier, and you know, it's somebody who's having a a moment or whatever, and they need to either calm down or, you know, get some support in some way that they need.
Quick note on that before you go on, by the way. I reported their account. It was banned. They ban evaded to come back and tell someone else that. So there's more to their personality there. That's an issue. They clearly need help, and I hope they get it. But just to kind of shoot that in there.
No, exactly. So, so when the stream streak thing, so this is a tricky one.
It is.
For me personally, I actually don't watch that much Twitch. You know, I pop in and say hi to my friends sometimes, but I'm actually pretty terrible at that as well. Because I just, you know, I always feel like I either feel like I should be doing something, or I should be resting and not, you know, being at a computer or a screen. Or the other part of it, at least 50%, is because I'll watch something and I'll be like, oh, I could play that. Yeah. And then I'm lost. I've gone down a rabbit hole. So it's you know, I can't do it because it's I feel like I'm just sitting in front of the telly or whatever, and I'm, you know. So, but anyway, so that said, I don't personally, like, I get it and I understand it on an intellectual level, but I'm like, who cares about the streak thing? Like, that said, that was definitely my going in position. It's still a large part of my position now, but I have noticed that quite a lot of people are enjoying them. You know, just saying, look, I'm here and this is cool, and I've got this number, like, in a way of being part of the community and showing sort of loyalty or whatever, and that, and I'm like, you know what, if you're enjoying that, and I'm enjoying them having fun with it, so that's cool. So it might not have that much meaning to me, but what means something to me is people in the community enjoying and sharing that and talking with each other about it, whatever.
Yeah.
So that's kind of cool. So I don't, you know, mind it as such, but I'm like, meh. I mean, and if it wasn't for that part, I'd probably just turn it off now, having heard that episode. But And here's the bit where, and I know there's other parts of this as well, but there's definitely I think a commonality or a hook, very strongly, very similar, is that it's the same kind of thing with the channel points, and in a way, definitely get why Twitch does it. It reminds me of Twitch drops, because there's no two ways about it. Twitch drops are a huge incentive for a lot of people, a lot of casual Twitch viewers or people that might not know your community or whatever. They'll come because there's a drop on for whatever game. And obviously now there's more of a trend of monetizing that as well. So if you sub, you get an extra drop and that kind of thing, which, is another facet of this. But the difference between drops are on or drops are off, and I'll do it with No Man's Sky. I quite enjoy No Man's Sky, but it's not a daily driver for me by any means, and I wouldn't play a lot of it because it's missing certain elements that I look for in a game. But I can have fun with it on an occasional couple of streams here and there. Drops come on, I'll play No Man's Sky for a couple of days because hundreds of people will come and hang out and have fun with us. Many from our community that we maybe don't see so often, but they're just really into space games or NMS specifically, or they just want their drops. But of course, a lot of casuals and a lot of new first-time viewers, because they'll be like, "Oh, right," and then they'll be like, "How often do you play No Man's Sky?" And I'm like, "Oh, when the drops on." I don't hide it or anything. Yeah. And then they can decide that they want to follow and stick around, or immediately unfollow and whatever. But so the drops is such a huge aspect, and obviously. Twitch is looking for anything that they can monetize or just keep their numbers up and show to advertise. Look, it's worth still being with us because, or we're worth 10% more. We'll look at this level of engagement we're driving and whatnot with people. But you're right in that it is obviously playing into addiction, but, in a way, all of it is like the same way as being addicted to your favorite TV show or your audio book or whatever. So it's such a difficult tightrope because on the one hand I'm like, let's get rid of everything that is addictive apart from like you want to be here because we have fun together and you enjoy the show. But that's just not the reality of any kind of entertainment whatsoever. Basic TV programs or highly produced things, it's exactly the same. When they go for an ad break, they'll have a hook. Don't go anywhere because when you come back in 3 minutes after the adverts, we're going to, dunk this guy in baked beans.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, I've got to stay here for the baked beans or whatever, mute button for the ads, whatever. And then you miss the baked beans because you forgot to turn it off mute while you're making a cup of coffee. That's my life. So, it's a weird one because if you can try to look at it from the positive light of like it is driving maybe a bit more engagement and people try. If we can be if you can have confidence that for the vast majority, at least, it's like, oh, I was up to like 169, but I was away for a week on holiday or whatever, and then you start from scratch and start building up again, and that's cool. But this is why I'm personally very wary of like, I'll be like, oh, cool, but I don't always mention them and I don't make a big thing out of it because I don't want it to become competitive or a FOMO thing any more than it is inherently on its own. If I feel like if I don't acknowledge it too much and I don't build it up, because I don't ever want people to turn up and I'm like, oh, wow, you've got 3 stream streak? What? Where have you been? And you can play fun with it. You could be like, where have you been? You could do that side of it, but it's weird because you never know exactly how people are going to sort of emotionally engage on a thing or how they might react to like feel rejected and all that kind of stuff. So it's I don't really have a depth of thought on it yet, but other than when you mentioned it, I had a few. That's my initial feelings, and again, people going off the rails. It's the same as like people raging in a video game or rage quitting and stuff like that. It's like, you've got to have a word with yourself at some point and be like, why is this digging into me so deeply? But not in a way of like, what's wrong with me? Don't do that. Do it as like what can I break this down somehow? And either I have to kick this because it's a bad habit kind of category, or, I can make the corrective action in my mind that's like, don't put so much stock in in such a trivial thing. But I get that it psychologically can be one of those back-breaking straws.
It genuinely is. But the thing is, since I immediately asked this person, hey, do you want to walk that back and rephrase it? If they had done that, I would have had no issue with it. I would have probably thought no more about it. If they had been like, you know what? Yeah, no, that's very strong language. I apologize. That's not at all what I meant. And then, because then I could had a conversation with them about the streak is on you. How you choose to perceive it, how you choose to engage with it, if you want to keep it, it's on you. It's not on the streamer. Because that is kind of the important part here. It's how strongly they reacted and put the blame on the streamer. And I'm like, no.
I think
because there's a certain very strong parasocial element there too. Suddenly, in a dangerous way, which is like if someone thinks that the system is set up and made by the streamer and that the streamer is the cause of their issues, oh boy, that's the dangerous part of it. And that's where I'm like, this is not a good system, because it creates an area of great not spite, like there's a certain antagonistic relationship there suddenly, which shouldn't be there. And that's kind of the dangerous part of it. And the other discussion is, of course, the edge cases where you have this person that reacted this strongly and chooses to ban evade, which is another term of service breach. Like, this is Twitch's own terms of service, let alone the death threats, but the actual breach of terms of going around and creating a new account just to come into someone else's stream and say, yeah, no, I've been banned on my other account. Like, stop. You have clearly not read anything about the platform you're on and understood what you are doing here. So, yeah. No,
well, that doesn't necessarily separate them from 99.9% of all other users.
No, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah, I think. I mean, I agree with you entirely. I think there is not a comma, but there is a comma. However, there is. There's always the problem with this, and this is where things, like rule sets and whatever. And I'm not going into the direction of like the law and whatever. That's far. But what's always missing in all these things is context and nuance, right? So we have no awareness really of who those people are. You don't fully know anyone. It's the internet.
Yeah.
So there's different, there's separation, degrees of separation. You don't know, what's led that person into that, unstable emotional state that they were in. Not you personally, but like no one does. It's also text chat, so you're not having a real conversation, as in like sorry, that's the wrong way of phrasing it. You're having this digital text only conversation that's missing all of the other nuance and elements that make up a fully fledged interaction with another human being. It's one of those where it's not acceptable to come in and like make those kind of threatening expressions towards people. That's just, I don't even do things like that as a joke. I don't, or I try not to. I might do it sometimes, but I would hope I would never catch myself saying something like, "I'm going to kill you," like even in a jokey way, because I don't. it's language I don't like to put forth, as it were, or to like, you know. But so there's all of that. There's also the, you know, almost, oh, how do I phrase this? I'm not sure what the right way to put it. There's a degree for everyone in a live stream. Also happens with comments and things as well, but it's particularly in a live stream that's focused on this one thing in that medium, where everybody in the chat, if it's 10 people or 100 people or 1,000 people, everybody thinks that they're having a one-to-one interaction with the host, with the broadcaster. Either they think they are, or well, they think they're not, but they I think subliminally. So because, you know, unless you're typing, and you see degrees of that as well. There's people that type and genuinely are interacting with each other, and it's a global, or like everyone's involved in the conversation. And arguably in a good scenario, sometimes it's not even involving the streamer all that much, although that's a whole different topic that we can talk about another time. So some of it would have also been that this person came in and bleated what they bleated, expecting that they were having a one-to-one conversation with the broadcaster. I know that's illogical because you're in a room filled with other people and it's a public space, so to speak, and all the rest of it. But I think that's still where people come in from, probably more so if they're in an agitated state for some reason. So again, it's not acceptable to me either with the whole, like, what they said. And it, you know, I suppose there's a degree of, like, we also have moderators there for those kind of reasons as well. I think that, and then you've got the whole ban evasion in terms of service. Again, I don't think anybody's really reading that or paying attention to it or caring about it if they're in that agitated state as well. But the what you do with stepping away from that individual case, what you do with that in a broader sense is, like, this is almost one of those, what was the conversation I was reading about the other day, was the topic of the law and whether things should be legal or illegal. And, like, you know, the subject matter was something like, you know, if you made theft no longer illegal, would it still be theft? Or sorry, the question posed was, would theft go up as a result of it not being illegal, not being punishable under the law? And then people were trying to be pedants about, well, it's not illegal anymore, if it, you know, blah blah blah. And it's like, no, but it's still theft. You're still taking something without permission from someone else. It just isn't punishable under law anymore. So, like, you know, trying to ignore the pedants. And it's this, and then, like, what I quite liked with the whole explaining it and taking the topic further was like, well, then, you know, people are trying to say, well, it's not theft, so theft doesn't exist anymore, because it's like, no, because the reason there's laws against being violent towards someone isn't because violence, you know, violence would very much still exist and would be more prevalent and rampant if it wasn't punishable. So, I feel a little bit like this with this whole, like, because we're dealing with addiction in a way, or those kind of triggers in the brain that get interpreted differently by everybody. So if you say, well, we can't have the stream streak thing because it could be addictive or FOMO and, you know, equals bad or whatever, or could equals bad for N percentage of people, then from my point of view, then you say, okay, then no channel points anymore, right? No drops anymore. And you start really rolling it all back till it's just the raw, like, here's the broadcaster, here's the audience, chat room in this case, that are all anonymous and interacting and saying whatever they want to blurt out at any moment. And then, you know, and then there's questions about, well, would that continue to exist and thrive? Would it help Twitch with their business as well? And would the platform continue to exist under those conditions? And it's a curious one. It's, you know, or does it become a bit more like a YouTube video with commenters?
Yeah.
And that's a Wild West compared to what we generally see in Twitch. People don't really have any qualms about what they'll write on YouTube comments. It's funny. or yeah, a different animal.
I'm curious to hear what the audience thinks about this
Mm.
because it's a big topic, and it branches into many other things. Like it has roots that leads to so many other very important aspects. But uh, like I said, the conversation in Ultrasaurus chat ended up with the suggestion of let this be up to the person if they want to have streaks or not the streamer. Like, and I genuinely think that's maybe better. Because for those who do not care, they can turn it off. For those who know that it would be addictive, they can turn it off. You know, so there's then the active choice of things. You know, and I mean, in some way, shape, or form, it would also allow, for instance, which is a bit of a weird tangent here. Belgium has laws against gambling, so people in Belgium are not allowed to buy certain things from the Wargaming store and are not allowed to use channel points on certain aspects on Twitch because of that gambling law. So it could then help regulate that. It's another big discussion regarding government regulation, but yeah, like it's the idea of allowing more personal granularity as opposed to leaving everything on the streamer.
Yeah.
Which
yeah. I got. I know we should move on, but I've got one last thought on it.
Yeah.
Which kind of relates a little bit to what you were saying there as well. This is way too broad, but anyway, I also think that there's a possibly an angle with this, which is we're overcomplicating it.
Could be.
I think that you could also look at this, and this is possibly how Twitch came at it, although it was probably had to go through a lot of checks and balances as well with their legal teams and whatever else. But there's also a way of looking at this, which is just, and I'm going to use the phrase common sense, which is just kind of your like, or maybe it's just a thing that's there and there's a number ticking up, or or not, and getting reset every once in a while, and everyone should just get over it and accept it and understand it for what it is. And it could be that simple answer is the best answer, with the correlation to, and I don't think we should go into this conversation here now, but I wonder if that's more symptomatic or another example of there are some like fundamental flaws is the wrong word, some cracks in the social fabric that we really should be collectively as a species or whatever, as a culture, as a society, we should be maybe looking at those and saying, okay, what's the deal with these little cracks that are appearing, that are becoming, that everybody's getting enraged at random things or whatever. So again, not to go off on a completely philosophical tangent too far, but regardless of who turns the thing on and off, and regulations and rules and TOS and all the rest of it, is it also not the case? Like, why should somebody be reacting so intensely and agitated at nothing like that? But the other thing is, why? And this is what I see in lots of chats, and this one seems to be a similar circumstance. I don't. How do I phrase this? I think our reaction should be, and our words and expressions in this, because it's a text-based conversation predominantly, should be one of, not like, oh, buddy, let's all have a hug in the corner or whatever, but like, obviously that's incensed people in different directions. But I feel like we're lacking something, or we're not doing enough in understanding how we should respond, and deal with things like that, because again, obviously this person's having a moment, and I would hope that our collective viewpoint would be, whoa, where did that come from?
Yeah.
Okay, that something's not quite right. Let's slow down for a minute and just take a breath and think about like these words and how we want to like process that and understand it or whatever. Now, obviously, I always, and this is why it's great to have my mod team there, because I always come at this from that point of view, which opens me up to a lot more, risk and potential danger or whatever from trolls or even just people having a bad moment or whatever. So, but I do worry that typically our instinctual response, not some people's responses are to immediately sort of strike back against something like that. And I don't necessarily think that that's always the right way. That said, each person should have their accountability, and what you'd hope is that the room would respond in a way of like, whoa, that's not in order, but not go to the next part of like, you shut your mouth, or whatever, like going into the challenge response thing, because you're inadvertently or deliberately then escalating the topic further, because that person's clearly already in an agitated state. So what I'd rather see it challenged in the way of like, whoa, no, we're not doing that.
And
right?
in this very case, it's how I reacted. Like, it was instantly, do you want to rephrase that? And I gave them ample opportunity of like, I need you to walk away right now and have a break. Like, just calm them down and just being like, I need you to be flatland, just calm right now, not go further. But they kept escalating. I was like, no. So what you're saying there is, we need more people to just kind of be like, hold on, what's up? Why are we reacting this way? And just speaking out simply on some of these ways of reacting, because I feel we've ended up at a place where people are shutting up and just eating their popcorn and just enjoying the drama and not reacting to things that need to have a tiny bit of a bop on the nose with a rolled up newspaper, just like, whoa, buddy, let's take a moment.
But again, there's nuance to it, right? There's also a room full of complete strangers, all behind pseudonyms, and essentially what that person then received was from you, random pseudonym, disagrees or calls them out on their BS or whatever, right? Not to say that that's wrong, but it's then that in itself will be inflammatory, regardless of how it was intended, because the person is already, again, they're in an agitated state. So it's a question of, this is where I think the onus is on the broadcaster, where the broadcaster would have to, so obviously there's stages of this, the mods could react to it or whatever. Maybe, long-term viewers and VIPs there's another layer there. But ultimately the broadcaster's got to say, hold on a minute. This is not happening.
Yeah, but this is what I mean about having more people speak out against this. Like, because if you have only one person in an audience speak up, it's going to be harder for the streamer to say, whoa. And for a lot of people, it's hard to set that boundary. But they need to. Like, that's so important for me to let people know, set that boundary. Do not be afraid of enforcing it. But if you suddenly have 30 people speak up and go, hold on, buddy, what's going on? Then it's so much easier for that one person to see, okay, you know what? Maybe I am stepping out of line. Maybe I should walk this back. Maybe I should rethink what's going on here. Because suddenly there's a mass and there's a community reacting, as opposed to just one person or one authority, which the streamer is. One authority saying, this is bad, get out, you know. Because and this ties into so many more topics than just on stream. It ties into how people talk in a workplace. It has ties to racism, misogyny, all of these things. Speaking out against wrongs in a good way and reacting in a good way, and I underline in a good way, which, you know, it's hard to define how that is, but no, it definitely, we need to normalize just kind of being like, hold on, what's up, and not just shutting ourselves in and being afraid of the community or the world around us, because that we've become very insular, and I think this is a great case to kind of showcase that. So I'm very curious to see what people at home think about this. Like, how would people actually speak up? Like, if you saw this in a chat, would you actually speak up? Like, have an honest conversation with yourself on this. Would you wait for the streamer to say something? Would you react? Would you hope that someone else reacted? You know, what would you do if you saw someone else speak up against it? So, you know, let's if you don't want to share it publicly, feel free to talk to me directly. I have a lot of strong feelings about this, as you may have noticed. But if you're willing to share some thoughts, feel free to pop that on the Patreon or on Discord or whatever. Just, you know, let's keep the discussion in a good way. You know, let's keep it reflective, because I feel like that's important in this, and not don't focus just on this one edge case, because it may be the trigger point, but it's not necessarily the only place where things apply, because like we've already spoken about, there's going to be a whole lot more places where everyone will be like, okay, I'll just start my streak over again. But there is a larger discussion at hand here. Definitely. Speaking of a larger discussion, there are a few firms out there in big discussions these days. How did you react when you first heard that StreamElements was in trouble?
Largely with surprise. I was like, okay, I'm not really. I don't keep on top of those kind of things. I was like, oh, okay, and a little bit of disappointment. I was like, oh, it's a shame, because they're used by a lot of people and quite handy. So
yeah, like
their business model isn't working.
out of all the firms out there that I imagined were doing okay, StreamElements was one of them. Because the way they communicate, the way they've done things, historically at least, has been good. It's been on the up. And they've had good conversations with their creators. They've had good dialogues with the sponsorships that they're bringing in and so on. And then suddenly getting this message, I was like, oh, what? Okay.
My second thought was, hopefully not unfair. My second thought was, I did worry a bit for them when they tied themselves so closely together with Twitch.
Yeah.
Twitch, not known as a great money-making scheme or service. So I was like, okay, I can kind of see the mutual benefit, and I can imagine how those business conversations went. But my feeling was like, I don't know if StreamElements just becomes weakened as a brand and as a service because of that tie-in.
I think the issue here was StreamElements has brought a lot of cool games to sponsorships for people, and have done a great job there. But Twitch as a platform for conveying this and giving access to streamers has not been good. So I would rather see them do the other way around, you know, where they keep it on the StreamElements platform and work there instead of integrating it into Twitch, because I think that's where they failed a bit. But yeah, no, it just kind of brought it to my mind that even though they have worked hard and done well, they completely went belly up. They are in talks with a firm, but I'm like, how often have we actually seen a comeback story when it comes to these things, where you have a company that suddenly has monetary issues, be funded by someone else, and then things stay the same? Because I think we're going to see a subscription-based thing. We're going to see a paid access thing. We're going to see more advertisements. Yeah. I don't think there's going to be a good outcome here, sadly. But it's going to be interesting to keep an eye on. Because StreamElements has been a tool for creators to help monetize their own streams in good ways. Not just monetize, like we're talking alerts, we're talking trackers, we're talking stats for how many people have been in chat, and all of these things. It's been a wonderful tool for that. But and I think it was one of the first places that actually introduced this whole hype train thing, because they created the hype train of, oh, okay, now there's gifted subs, there's resubs, there's bits, there's normal tips coming in, also being part of the hype train and everything. And I think a lot of creators were using that, and that was also part of what was bringing revenue to StreamElements, because of, tips. And suddenly Twitch had their own hype train thing that people started using, and that only counted bits and subs. So yeah, no, I'm curious. I'm curious to see where this is all going, but StreamElements has been a big part of many people's ability to give interactivity. Because you gift sub, and then there's alerts for 1, 3, 5, however many you want. You can set all of this up, and it's portable. It's easily fixable and moved and everything. So since it's online, and I, as kind of a silly tie-in and segue here, I'm gonna walk this over to the next segment just very quickly. I would love to see something from StreamElements or Twitch in the way of alerts and API thing for the new thing Twitch have brought in. And I don't know if you've seen this, but when gifting subs, there is a button that says gift subs to all eligible community members. Meaning, if you're in a chat and you're looking at gifting a sub, you have the option of giving a subscription to anyone of someone who is following that isn't currently subscribed. So as an example, I took a screenshot of it. I can't remember who it was, but I hit that button to see, and it showed me the ability to give 41 gifted subs to the people in the community, which is, I kind of like it, but why is it all or nothing?
Yeah.
Could I not be allowed to say, oh, let's give to 10 people in the community? Or why isn't this more of a, like, okay, let's say the gifted subs are either specific, you find the name of the person you want to gift to, or mainly given, like, prioritized to people following but not necessarily subscribed. Like, why isn't that the standard? And then once you hit everyone, well, then it just throws them out to random people who are either lurking or, people from neighboring communities as such. I think that would be much better.
Yeah.
But keep an eye on it. If you're part of a large community, have a look if you see that button. I don't know if this is a beta test or just for certain creators or whatnot, but I only saw the fact that I could pay 1,680 NOK or about 168 euro for 41 gifted subs, and I was like, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Could you imagine?
That was kind of my main concern, was that somebody might either misclick or a couple of times, or they might have a moment where they're super excited.
Yeah.
That then turns into a moment of regret later.
Yep.
That was my main concern, that when I saw that was a possibility, I was like, I don't know if that's a good idea.
Yeah.
But,
I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, I like the focus on the community, though. That is, I want to take away the good from this, and I want Twitch to run with the positive part of that instead of,
yeah,
the let's give to everyone. That's a bit much again. Let's walk it back.
I was just reading about it because in the past I've complained, like a few years ago, about seemed to be a lack of weighting on it. But from reading up on it very, very briefly while we've been talking, it looks as if there's a bit more weighting logic applied now than there used to be in the past. I'll need to go through the whole Twitch article to make sure I'm getting the right information, but the synopsis I got from Google seems a lot more positive. So active chatters and viewers top priority, channel members second, engagement and activity and watch time and things third, anti-troll logic that's built in fourth, and then random viewers as the last. So if that does work, and to be honest, that matches my experience. I feel like gift subs
definitely, yeah,
bundles have been more hitting names I recognize than they used to in past years. Like, this year's been a lot better for that,
and I think that's cool. I think that's very cool. But I feel like maybe if I could go to a channel and say gift 5 subs to followers of Grumbles, I would be like, heck yeah, I'm gonna do that, because then I know it's people in the community that are already, they're already here and enjoying it. Bam, go for it.
Yep.
And yeah, no, I feel like that could be a good. So Twitch, you're doing some good. Let's keep it up, okay? I feel like we've said that a few times on this show.
Yeah,
there we go. Let's whip that dead horse a bit more. Speaking of community, we have some contributions to go through. And I know we're nearing a time limit here, but I really want to get through these. So leave it to me to do the edit. I'll fix it, okay? Mick on Patreon says, regarding our conversation last time on the Would You Rather, he says, I have a cheese and butter sandwich every night before I go to bed. Grumble's a solution of cheese sandwich with cheese as the bread is a solid answer. Maybe Swiss for the bread and a nice Manchego or sharp cheddar for the filling. I'll be honest, I'll just have to starve. Oof. That's a hardcore choice right there.
Yeah.
Also on Patreon is Introvert. He says, regarding our little conversation on Dune and the changes to taxes and the PvP system, has never played Dune, never wanted any part of PvP, would like to try it with these changes, I think. How many kinds of player characters are there? There's quite a few, and there's plenty of story per each one of them, because even as a sword master, you're not necessarily locked to just being a sword master. Like, you can unlock a lot. So So yeah, no.
Yeah, they did a weird thing, which is both a pro and a con. So there's like the 4 core classes, I think it is still, but you can mix and match, and you can also reset and respec pretty much whenever you want.
Which is kind of
as
cool.
well.
It's a
cool
system.
But it's also there's a part of me that's like, yeah, but then none of it matters.
Yeah.
You know, so if in terms of like if you were adventuring together and you tried to build like dungeon parties and things like that, it feels a bit meh because kind of everything can kind of do everything.
Yeah.
The flip side of that is if you're on your own, or if you're just like that's not your focus, the actual game mechanics isn't that important, and you just want to run dungeons with your friends together, then it's kind of cool that it doesn't matter and everyone can, you know, there's 3 Bene Gesserits and a Swordmaster go into a, sounds like the start of a bad joke.
I was just about to say.
But, you know, so pros and cons. I've always personally thought it was a bit meh because I felt like it doesn't matter so much. That said, I haven't played the game for about a year, and they've brought in augmentations or augments or whatever, and different weapons and stuff like that. So I think there's a lot more fine detail you can go into, and probably therefore more variety. But ultimately, in this game, somewhat ironically, the flavor doesn't really matter that much. So I think part of one of the things that's not led to it doing as well with sustained population, because there's incredibly high amount of similarity between all the classes and outfits and whatever. People like variety. They like going around the corner and be like, oh crikey, there's somebody dressed all in green. What do they do?
Yep.
And it being a bit mysterious, but because you can respec and you kind of probably have played through all the different classes, you kind of know what everyone and everything can do, so there's no mystery anymore. And that makes the world a little bit less interesting.
But nonetheless, open.
Yep.
Very open, which is, you know, there's pros and cons to everything here.
Yep. As a player, it's great.
Yeah.
Like for your having your individual agency and choice, yeah.
Just Mick has commented on the YouTube episode last time, saying finally able to play Roadcraft after they released a patch to fix the AMD 9000 series crashing issue, and really enjoying it. Hoping to talk a few buddies into getting it, because it seems like it's really designed for co-op. And yeah, as we've talked about, definitely is. Been enthralled with Enshrouded the last few months after DRP Eco, and I can't wait to hear your guys' thoughts on the new update. Haven't touched it, but will do soon, so maybe in upcoming episodes we'll talk about it a bit more. He goes on to say, and Windrose, I got in on the hype and bought it. Laid a couple hours and thought, yeah, I'm going to get stuck in on this one, and shelved it for the fall when I have more time to fully immerse in the game. Great episode as always, gents. Thank you for that, Mick. And yeah, I think we're both on the same scale here with both Enshrouded and Roadcraft, and also Windrose. I'm gonna let Windrose cook a bit more before I hop in on it, but definitely up there with something that I enjoy. Mari on the same episode says, look, if you decide to not have bread, then there is no pizza, no baguette, no toast. Cauliflower is okay. Also, no bread filling, but breading is okay. Barely. Edit. Capybara licks are best licks. Okay, she's laid down the law there. Like, that makes that choice between cheese and bread. That makes that even harder, I'd say.
Yep.
Honestly.
Yep.
But yeah.
I think I'm almost to the point where I'm team bread, and the cheese has to go bye-bye.
Yeah, it's such a hard one, man. Like, oddly difficult choice. Introvert commented on the Discord, on my Discord, saying, the question I posed in Would You Rather about seeing versus hearing comes from many things. I first thought about this song, and he linked to a song from late 1970s called John Dawson Reed, and the song is called A Friend of Mine Is Going Blind. And it was probably the first time that I had seriously considered the point. I always thought my answer would be sight. Then I saw a movie, Immortal Beloved, when Beethoven is portrayed trying to hear his Moonlight Sonata. That was when I knew if I had to, I would live without sight, but never without sound, despite the fact that I am daily fairly isolated. But that's just me. Your mileage may vary, of course. Yeah, no, that's the thought of Beethoven in that. I don't think we touched on that last time, but yeah, no, definitely a good thought there. Mari also has a comment on Discord. She says, "Little victory, LARPing as an NPC zombie, learning the art of falling down dead, for real dead, that is. Big fun, much activity." Yeah, no, she was running around the woods and being a zombie, and I had a lot of fun with that. So cool. She poses a question for us, where she says, "What is your mid-year summary on best games so far, and what games are you looking forward to coming out this year still?" Ooh, I think honestly, for me, this year's games coming out, I'm gonna have to say Everwind, just because of how it played, and how well it fits my kind of style of things. But for things coming up, I'm not sure it's this year, but I saw someone be very excited for Fate of the Old Republic, so a follow-up to Knights of the Old Republic.
Okay.
So, yeah, then that had me hyped. How about you?
Well, obviously the first thing I do is scramble and look for a list because I can't remember anything I've done 5 minutes ago. Everwind, definitely, because the other thing is, like, I'm not necessarily playing games that have just released.
Yeah.
Hightail came out this year, which I enjoyed, but needs more time to cook. Everwind, similar. It just had the flying mobile base thing going for it, which I love, but clearly needs like more development time, but good fun. So those are probably, just scrolling through a list here. Like, there's tons of games that have come out, but they're just not the kind of games that I play. So I'm just not, I'm not doing runny, jumpy, blah, blah kind of things. What ones actually got released? I don't know. We probably don't have enough time to wait, but there's nothing that's leaping off my page at me straight away, because a lot of them are either just an update to a game or ones that I wouldn't consider, or I'm not 100% sure if they're like fully out yet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually making like Wind Rolls, I guess, released this year, but again, it's another one that for me needs time to cook. It's grabbed a lot of people's imagination and time.
Maybe it can hit both in that question, honestly, because it released and it's cool, but you're also looking forward to it later down the line,
Yeah, I think that's the story of this year for me, because I also made an active choice in my sort of mindset and approach to this year. I was like, I will play a variety of games, but I want to focus more time on games that are sufficiently fleshed out, more solid, rather than things that are like, oh, this is a neat idea, and then like 5 minutes later move on.
There's plenty to come. And thank you to plenty of you Patreons who have chosen to be supporting us. I'm not sure why, but we are forever thankful to Mari, Finn, Tilted, Lima, Introvert, Just Mick, Lady Alien, and Hailed Paladin. Hail to all of you, and thank you so much for doing that over on patreon.com/exit to port. That's patreon.com/exit to port. $2 a month for early access to an episode, always getting your comments and questions in, unless you don't want us to have it part of it. If we can't get to it in the main episode, we will answer on Patreon. And that moves us on to our last and final segment, something to smile about. And mine is very straightforward and simple. I was recently in a conversation with someone on Discord trying to help them with something, and in the background I could hear their husband laughing out loud at something he was watching on TikTok or Instagram, not sure what. And it struck me that the honest laughter from this person was something that I very much enjoyed, and I never want them to stop doing that, because the ability to laugh out loud when you're technically in a public setting, it's slightly vulnerable. And I think it's something that I think people don't allow themselves to do enough. Like you're kind of sitting in your own bubble, watching something, reading something, and most of the time people would just chuckle inwards or just be silently laughing. But I'm like, laugh out loud, do it, because it shows an honest appreciation of what you're looking at and enjoying. And I think more people could benefit from hearing others having a good time around them.
Mm.
And you've named yours Being There.
Yeah.
What's that all about?
Well, it's more of a, obviously they're all personal and subjective anyway, but ordinarily it's something fully external that's triggered. In this case, it is that, but it's also it's maybe an unusual, not an unusual, a non-traditional one, which is and obviously there's a distinction between smiling and laughing out loud and whatever, right? So you can smile at many different things in many different ways. So in this case, it is specific to in one particular case was our dear friend Mr. Grumpy, the Grumpy Beard, the Squid Alien himself, who, as most will know, listeners, is suffering the pains and agonies of having to deal with chronic cancer, an incurable cancer circumstance, not terminal, but chronic, as in you're going to live with this forever because there's no answer to it right now. And on top of that, family life, normal life, streamer life, all the things, long bouts of insomnia and all sorts of other stuff and pain constantly and that kind of thing. So dealing with medicines, dealing with doctors and hospitals and then illness in the family and all that recently as well on top of it. So just, all the things, life going on and being life, but and you have to deal with that. So it's not a sub story, but for me, the thing to smile about was on Friday, had a really rough couple of weeks, and he, on top of it all, and it kind of reached a point where he was like, I hate everything. I'm smashing my keyboard out the window, and the monitor's going with it, and all the rest of it. He was just like at the end of his tether kind of thing while we were playing some games together on Friday, the usual. So I'm not going to mention the game because I don't want to, pivot that way or whatever. So I tried to be and hopefully was a good friend, and was just, in some cases countering a few points because he just needed that conversation and trying to diffuse a little bit, but without taking away his right to express himself and just to be sort of angry and upset and frustrated and in pain and all the rest of it, because you can't just say, "Oh, shut up," or there's so you're trying to have the most honest and open and like permissible conversation for all parties as you can. And obviously we've got the chats in the background as well, which is we talked about that before, so I'm going to go over that. But we got through it all and we wound up doing okay and having hopefully enough fun, but more importantly just focusing in on what was within our power to converse on and engage on and have fun with and entertain the audience. And we had a bit of a laugh and got through it. Some days are like that. It is our work. As much as it's like we're just sitting there playing a video game, it's that's silly. Don't really think like that.
So much more
So
to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we got through it all, but it was one of those like, and then afterwards we had a few DMs of like, nothing bad, and they were, but it was just like, from my point of view, I get it. I see, it's horrible, and I can try to imagine it, but I'm not living it. So, I have my things going on and everything, and there was nothing inflammatory or anything at all. It was just, I was just like, if you need to rant, just go for it. I'm not going to be offended. We're friends, kind of thing. And anyway, so we get all through all of that, and then in the evening I was like, I don't know, was I too combative, or did I not help, or was I trying to fix everything? And you don't need that. Sometimes you don't need an answer to thing. You just need someone to be like, yep, okay, you've been heard, I get it. And then because it's like that for me sometimes, I'll bleat about a thing and I'll be like, why did I say that? Because now half a dozen people are going to come back trying to fix it or help, and I don't want help. I just wanted to say I feel crap right now. There.
Yeah, just need the ability to go rah rah
So,
rah.
and my golden rule is always, as long as you're not hurting someone else physically or intellectually or whatever, then and sometimes you can't help that because people can be hurt and offended by a thing and whatever. And I always like the Ricky Gervais line of like, well, just because you're offended doesn't mean you're right. So obviously that works both ways. But my something to smile about, to try and come to the point at the end of this 16-hour podcast, is that it took me a couple of days, but I know that our friendship is fine and everything. That was never in any doubt anyway. But it was, he was able to pop in and say hi in the chat and whatever, but with the 3 minutes of being awake and cognizant or whatever that he gets on those bad days, and that was nice to see. And I always tell him, like, come and just hang out. You don't have to speak, just lurk and whatever. But he's like me; he can't sit on Twitch and not chat and then get distracted and think, oh, I could be doing something. So, my something to smile about is just that it took me a couple of days to sort of process it and go, and just sort of relax through it all. Not in the specific point of like the friendship, because that was in no doubt whatsoever, but just in the did I do okay, was I fair, that kind of thing. Not overanalyze it. And I just got to the point of like, well, that's now something to smile about, because I feel not just for that, but in a broader sense, I know, as I get comments and I'm sure it's the same for you, you get either DMs or you get chat comments or whatever, and people just understand and appreciate that we're there, and we are putting ourselves out there and putting that entertainment out there and trying to be that distraction that people need for 5 minutes to get over that moment in their day.
Yep.
That would otherwise be more difficult, and sometimes can feel insurmountable. And I feel like that's just something to smile about, because it's always so important to me that people come and just hang out and just give over their time and whatnot. And that we can do these things collectively or whatever, or that you get a little thumbs up or you get a little, comment or whatnot. And that means, the world to us. Not in a sense of, you can't disassociate it entirely, but it's not in like, oh, I need the adoration and adulation or whatever, but just, knowing that people are out there and that, we're all alive together and we've got through all the things we've got through, and then tomorrow's a new challenge. But anyway, let's go. And so, yeah, that's just what I wanted to share and put into the world of like, I think that's something to smile about, that we can find these common ground and the more positive aspects of things, even though a lot of things going on in the world every day are divisive and intended to keep us apart and make us all tribal or appeal to that tribalism. And I think it's a wonderful thing that we're able to bust through that myth, as it were, and just be normal or not normal is a terrible word to use, you know what I mean? Just be able to find that common ground or whatever. And I was just happy to be able to be there for my friend Grumpy when he was obviously at a horrible low. And it won't be the only one, and it's not exclusive to him or anybody else in the world. We all going through it all, this strange journey that no one asked to be here. No one asked or chose to be here, but we're here. And for every day that we're here, let's just try and make it a good thing. So there you go. I'm smiling about it. I'm not sad about it. I'm not trying to be triggering emotions or whatever, I think is genuinely something to smile about, and I think it deserves recognition. Be there for one another.
Normalize asking people if they want feedback or just need to get something off their chest. Because it makes it easier to understand, do they just need to go rah 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 for a bit and then they're fine, or do they want feedback and help with something? And if they can't answer it, don't give your feedback. Just let them get stuff off their chest. So without further ado, that's going to be it from me, and thank you from me, and good vibes from...
Good vibes, everybody.
Mr. Grumble, that's right. Good vibes. Goodbye.